And good morning again, everyone. It is Saturday morning, 710 KNUS, Denver's Talk Station, the 6th of September, 2025. Beautiful day. It says 80 will be the high today. And then tomorrow, Sunday, 82, maybe afternoon storms. Broncos game, home game. 86 Monday and Tuesday, 87 degrees. We have a really good show. Coming up, we're going to, as we have done now for 12 years, the 12th annual MC1 Honor Run. And then True Hour and I met this remarkable woman who brings these dogs into the world and then passes them on, America's vet dogs. She will be with us. She's in studio now with her puppy. Becky Wynn is here. Then Alan Samuel, Machine Gun Tours. And many gun shops are now leaving Colorado. And Alan's been a longtime sponsor, longtime friend. He's going to come in and talk about why they are leaving and going to Idaho. Then the part of the show that's really going to be the home run, Eric Dezenhall returns in his book, The Devil Himself. And it comes from Franklin Roosevelt, who said he would shake hands with the devil himself to defeat Adolf Hitler. And the devil himself is Meyer Lansky. And it's a true story about what happens in the docks in New York and Meyer Lansky and through FDR, and it's a brilliant, well-done book. In the meantime, this is a friend. Please say good morning and welcome to Dave Swanson as we begin the 12th annual MC1 Honor Run. Hey, Dave, thanks, man, and a good morning and welcome back to the show.
Good morning, Peter. Thank you very much for having us on. We're really excited about this year's 12th annual MC1 Honor Run.
It's hard to believe it's been 12 years. I mean, really.
It is. It's very hard to believe. And this year, with this being the 12th annual, we really don't have a named beneficiary this year. But so far, since we've been in existence, we have helped 65 survivors with over $500,000 to benefit them, to get them beyond their injuries and to move forward.
We began all of this, the mutual group of people, with Emily's parade after Emily Keyes' life was taken. And that began the first of those. And then in 2014, I believe it was, we lost Dave Baldwin, and he was a motor officer. He was sergeant, I believe, at the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office. And his call sign was MC1, Motorcycle 1. And David was killed on the line of duty. And we had a couple of years of crossover between Emily's and the MC1 Honor Run. And then the Keyes family stopped. They had had 10 years of it. And I really understand what John Michael was saying. And then, of course, the MC1 Honor Run takes the place, the fall place of this, and it's usually it's every time it's been wonderful weather, and the foundation, the 100% volunteer organization, has been grown in its men and women injured in the line of duty, and take a couple of seconds, if you would, and talk about some of the folks that we've helped.
So we've helped officers throughout the state of Colorado, whether they be with Denver PD, Huerfano County Sheriff's Office, Colorado Springs PD, South Metro Fire, Arvada PD, numerous officers and agencies that we have helped throughout the state over the last 12 years with their critical incidents where they've been critically injured, in helping get them back to work, whether it be financially, spiritually, mentally, however we can help those individual first responders that have been critically injured, get them back to some sort of normalcy and get them back on the road to recovery and get them back to work is our main goal.
So here it is. Join the 12th annual MC1 Honor Run motorcycle fundraiser. It is Sunday, the September 28th edition. We go, once again, this is thank you to Frank DeAngelis. Columbine High School has always been really kind to the guys. And people come, you can pre-register online, or you can come there and register that morning. And it's just, it really is a wonderful event. We go for a ride, and then there's a party, and it's for the survivors. So give the all the specifics about going to Columbine. What time do the gates open? And we're going to be doing this every Saturday up until the day before the run. So if you would, Dave, do that, please.
The registration and gates open at 8 o'clock on Sunday the 28th at Columbine High School. Everybody will start gathering. We'll start the opening ceremonies about 9:15, go through our presentations, and then we plan on having Wheels Up at 10 o'clock. The ride will take off from Columbine, head up north on our usual route, and then end up at the main event up at 580 East 144th Avenue, Thornton. There we'll have family fun events. Everybody is more than welcome. Get there early, watch all the bikes come in, and just enjoy good afternoon, good lunch, and our survivors.
We'll be talking, I think, we'll be doing this every Saturday between now and that day, and the man will be back from camping. So he'll do the show. But Dave, thank you. You did a great job. Dave is vice president and the board of trustees of MC1. We got a big meeting coming up. I'll see you that night, and of course, I'll see you on the Sunday that we ride. Fair enough?
Fair enough. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, brother. Thanks a lot, man. Bye. Now, this is like making a transition into another incredible woman, and this is True Iron and I are having breakfast, and we're on our motorcycles, and we're having breakfast at O'Brien's, and a great breakfast spot down in Sedalia. So we come out, and there's this lovely woman with this puppy, I think he's a black lab, and it says America's Vet Dogs on his jacket. This is Becky Wynn. Good morning.
Good morning.
We promised we'd do this, and you're really a remarkable woman. First of all, the dog that you're raising right now, the little girl I think she's sleeping at the floor down there.
Yes.
And how old is she?
She turned 10 months today.
How old was she when you got her?
We as puppy raisers get these puppies when they're 8 weeks old and have them until they're between 14 and 16 months before they go back for formal training.
Now we have puppy cam going right now. John's here and he's got a handheld. And if you're watching this streaming on YouTube, you can see there she is. She's sleeping down there on the floor. Now, I don't know how you do this. This is your 17th. She's coming up there. She's looking now. Now, you have these puppies for how long? Or this, because she's growing up now.
I'll have her till she's about 18 months old, and then she'll go back to New York for her formal training with the specialists, and that'll be another 2 to 6 months, and then she will be matched with her applicant, and the team will live at the facility in New York, Smithtown, New York, for another 2 weeks while they're trained as a team.
This is 17 of these puppies. This is the part that I thought was just amazing. How many of these guys have you raised?
I raised 13 puppies for Leader Dogs for the Blind out of Michigan.
All right.
And then had an opportunity to raise for America's Vet Dogs, and we as puppy raisers do quite a few of the beginning PTSD skills, and I'm kind of enjoying that. So this is number 4 for them.
So that's 17 puppies.
Yes.
One of the questions I had when we first talked is how you're like this very compassionate woman. You're telling me all the different things that you've done. How do you give the puppies up?
I cry like a baby
Do
every time I turn a puppy in, and then they hand you another ball of fur and you start again. But I have decided that I forgive myself for crying because I think if you're not that bonded, I wouldn't be doing
Yeah,
as good a job.
Yeah, the people have to know who you are. And but there's these great pictures of guys that have been really badly injured with their dog. What does the dog do for the vet?
These dogs are trained to retrieve items that they've lost or dropped. They open and close doors and drawers. They interrupt nightmares.
Oh.
They save
the
space.
PTSD guys.
Yes,
Yeah.
save space around their person if they're in a crowd or in a line and somebody's too close behind them. They help with balance.
How do they know? I mean, how do they know all these things? Just training.
That's right. Very specialized training.
Now, do you do that specialized training, or you just...
I do the beginnings of it. So I do the beginnings of the things that teach them and are the foundation for instance, pushing doors and drawers closed, or opening the automatic doors. And we start with touch, and they touch your hand, and we use our hand as a target. And then we put a CD in your hand, and we ask them to touch or push. We put that CD on a door or a drawer and teach them to push that closed. And then eventually we put it on our leg and lay down on the couch and teach them the word alert. So they get up and punch you in the leg to wake up a person in having a nightmare. Then when they go back for their specialty training, those special trainers take those basics and teach that dog to respond to somebody having a nightmare during the night.
This is Becky Wynn. What an incredible woman. So you told me this story off air. You met these two sisters, and tell me, this is just a great story.
I was on vacation on Martha's Vineyard and met twin sisters who had been blinded when they were newborns, and because they were premature babies, they were put in pure oxygen, and that destroys the optic nerve. So they have been blinded since shortly after birth, but they went through all of their education, college, graduate school, and their careers as an attorney and a IT specialist using their dogs.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And that's the first time you...
That was the first time. And then I went back to Michigan after my vacation and walked into Sam's Club, and there was a couple with the cutest little yellow lab puppy that was 7 weeks old, and it came from Leader Dogs for the Blind, which is located in Michigan, and I was
smitten.
I was.
Can any breed of dog do this, or because you pretty much talked about that too?
Yeah, America's Vet Dogs uses labs, Goldens, and standard poodles.
And poodles?
Yes, standard poodles.
Okay.
They also do crosses between the Goldens and the labs.
Yeah.
Leader Dogs started, and I think a lot of the older guide programs in this country started with military dogs.
That's right.
Leader Dogs
With
started
shepherds.
even before that, they
Okay.
started with Dobermans.
Ooh.
And the first couple of classes in Leader Dogs was founded in 1939.
Okay.
And Guide Dog Foundations, which is what America's Vet Dog is part of, is located in New York on Long Island. And that program was started in 1946.
After the war.
After World War II.
Yeah.
And then after 9/11, because
Sure.
Guide Dog Foundations is located on Long Island, they decided they needed to do a PTSD program. And that was the beginning of America's Vet Dogs.
Is that what she will be?
That's what she will be.
Do you ever see them again? This is a remarkable woman. Do you ever see the dogs that you've raised 2 years later or anything?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's completely up to the recipient and the new handler in the team. Sometimes they want to continue having a relationship or get together or even talk on the phone sometimes, and sometimes not. And that's sometimes it's better for them and the dog to move on and have create their own life together.
So do you know where she's going to go?
Well, she'll go, when she's about 18 months, she'll go back to the facility in New York, Smithtown, New York, and she'll start her formal training. That'll be 2 to 4 months, and during that they'll be watching her and will make a decision about, among the applicants, what would be the best match for her. So I don't know now who she will end up with.
Will you meet the vet that gets her?
Sometimes we do. If the vet is interested in meeting us, we sometimes have a Zoom conference with them while they're still in their team building, when they go back to New York and spend 2 weeks with their new dog and learn to bond with them and learn all the buttons to push. And during that time, if they are interested, they get to meet us over the phone or on Zoom, and that's been a thrill.
You're remarkable, and that's quite a. And she's just a little girl. She's just here.
Yeah, she's 10 months old and learning to do this job.
No, we have about 2 minutes to our break. What's the website?
The website is vetdogs.org.
That's it.
That's it. And there is a phone number. They have over 100 people who you can talk to and get detailed information. And that phone number,
if you would, go ahead,
is 631-930-9000.
The website's much. Just say the website again.
The website is vetdogs.org. VETDOGS.
How much longer do you have with her?
Probably another 6 to 8 months.
And then will they give you a puppy when she goes off?
They will. If I do a good job.
You've done a great job. 17 dogs. This is a remarkable woman, Becky Wynn. Thanks to True, because True's the one who came out and started petting the dog, then introduced me, and then you said, I'd like to do your show. No, he booked it.
Yeah.
He booked the show. You're a delight. Thank you for doing our show this morning, and she's a great dog.
Thank you very much.
And I'll see you again, I promise. Take care of yourself.
Thank you so much.
All right, we go to open lines, and then Alan Samuel, who was taking machine gun tours out of Colorado and told me why, he's coming into studio, and Eric Dezenhall, the devil himself. 710 KNUS Denver's Talk Station, 303-696-1971. Lines are open. Wasn't that great? It was just amazing. That little puppy is going on, and it's a remarkable woman. So, morning, everybody. 710 KNUS Denver's Talk Station. I'm Peter Boyles. The weather, 80 and maybe some rain. Tomorrow, maybe some rain and 82 and 86 degrees on Monday. Back to work. 303-696-1971. Alan Samuel will be in studio here coming up. He owns Machine Gun Tours, longtime sponsor of the show. And because of what's taking place here in Colorado vis-a-vis the Second Amendment, he's leaving. He's taking his entire business and they're going out of state. And he told me, and I don't know whether this is true, I suspect it is, that a decade ago there were 2,000 gun stores in the state of Colorado. Today there's less than 1,000. The state of Colorado is trying to eliminate a Second Amendment. And then really a remarkable book. The book is entitled The Devil Himself, and it's a line that comes from FDR. They talk about, remember when I think it was Winston Churchill that said he would crawl on his hands and knees to Moscow to defeat Adolf Hitler. And I believe that FDR said he would shake hands with the devil himself. Well, the devil himself was organized crime, and after the Normandy burned and there were spies coming ashore and everything was taking place, the U-boats were laying off in New York City, the Navy went to organized crime vis-a-vis Meyer Lansky. And it's all true stories. And the book is put together so well. So Eric Dezenhall will be with us coming up this morning as well. Danny Kaplis in the Kaplis Law Firm. Dan suggests you choose a lawyer who shares your values, because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says so much about you and everybody involved in the case. Dan Kaplis, son of a police officer, former seminarian. We talk about him all the time. He's just a good man. Dan, now the law firm, is the official law partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Danny's a serious firm for serious cases and a very decent man. Helped my family. He can represent good people from all walks of life without regard and ability to pay. If you have just a question, you call Danny, 303-770-5551. You can look at him on the internet at dankaplislaw.com, CAPLISlaw.com. He is the man, 303-770-5551. One thing I wanted to talk about and open up and open lines and get your thoughts. The U.S. carried out an airstrike, and this was getting some attention. I wasn't working, obviously, on this drug vessel in the Caribbean Sea earlier this week. And the strike targeted a Venezuelan organization and comes to the U.S., ramps up pressure now on the drug cartels. 303-696-1971. Approve or disapprove? The U.S. sent a message, I think, this week, and it's willing to unleash tactics once reserved for distant battlefields, Second World War stuff. Deadly strikes against suspected terror targets, which closer to home, and of course the pressure on the cartels. The strike on this, they were suspected Venezuelan drug vessels in the Caribbean Sea earlier this week, a radical departure from decades of counter-narcotics operations, moving from the Coast Guard interdictions to more lethal approaches seen in the Middle East as part of the global war on terror. Agree or disagree on the strike? And we've all seen the video. I've seen it probably 10 or 12 times. And by blowing up a suspected cartel boat, the U.S. signals it's bringing the war on terror tactics to the drug war. 303-696-1971. The strike, of course, echoes the U.S. counterterrorism campaigns during the time which preemptive strikes proved very effective. Raised questions again about legality. I heard some talk radio going over this, and some talk radio on-airs were very upset. How dare you do this? And the Trump administration signaled this devastating strike was only the start Secretary of State Marco Rubio. I was reading about this last night, telling reporters that it'll happen again. They're warning these guys. On Tuesday, he said the U.S. military conducted lethal strikes in the South Caribbean Sea against drug vessels that had departed from Venezuela. And if you know about how Pablo Escobar operated with Noriega, and Noriega has always been an interesting character to me because he was a CIA asset. There's no question about who Noriega was. And then finally, George Herbert Walker, and they take him out in something called Just Cause. Remember that? And the boats were running, and they would run, and they would be given shelter from Panama. Then they'd run north, and then they were given shelter by Fidel Castro. And anything that could be done to hurt the United States of America, it was Pablo Escobar. They were muling in cocaine. And remember the Thunderboats, and there were stories about the Thunderboats, and they murdered the builder of the Thunderboats. And they were hot. They were strong boats. And remember, Jeb Bush was involved with all of this, and they were doing it. So Donald Trump said the strike targeted members of the Venezuelan, he called it, I think, transnational criminal organization. So, your thoughts, 303-696-1971. Let's go to Ralph, Colorado Springs. Ralph, you're on the radio show. Good morning.
Peter, I think we're moving backwards in history. This is very much what Teddy Roosevelt was all about. That is imperialism.
We have an imperial country, I agree. The problem is what drugs have done to this country. And this is more like the Chinese model, I think, than it is what the Americans and particularly the British did to the Chinese. I'm just not as upset as I heard other people get over this. These people are coming here with intent.
Well, but Peter, what you're talking about later on is Meyer Lansky. Do we want to discuss drugs, prostitution, loan sharking, mob murders, Murder Incorporated, which was associated with Lansky? It wasn't him. It was.
Murder Incorporated was a Jewish outfit.
Was it really?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Well, so who was the Italian that was allegedly in charge of it?
Well, the Mad Hatter, but I don't know, Albert Anastasia.
That's what I'm thinking about. Yes.
But
no, I mean the problem, Peter, is we're saying, okay, we're going to clean up the world.
No,
the problem is we haven't cleaned up the U.S.
Well, in the case of Meyer Lansky and organized crime in the docks, the Normandy burns. No one's quite sure of who did it, and the U-boats are laying off the East Coast, and there's belief that there's Nazi spies or at least informants that are working the docks, and the Navy can't ferret it out. They've gone in. The longshoremen will not deal with anything from the government. A guy named Sox Lanza is running Anastasia's brother, but Sox and another guy, I think Cockeye Dunn was his name, and they're serious. I'm serious. I'm not making this up.
Well, I know. It's the names.
And they're running the docks, and a Navy commander goes down to meet them, and they won't deal with them, and so he goes and meets Meyer Lansky, and Lansky was far more brilliant than any of them, and then Lansky says, "Yeah, we can do it," but Charlie Lucky Luciano was in a place called Denimora, and they called it Siberia, and he wanted better treatment for Charlie, and bring Charlie into and eventually Charlie does get communed, and even Dewey does it, and he gets deported to Sicily. they also help with the Sicilian invasion, and that's the title of FDR saying, that he'll hold hands with the devil. And Winston Churchill said he'd crawl on his hands and knees to Moscow to defeat Hitler. And I don't see it as the same things at all. I see it as the country's on the ropes. There's in the book, and Eric will give the numbers, the tonnage of American shipping and the dead sailors that were the U-boats. It was Operation Drumbeat was what the Nazi Navy called it. They were killing Americans left and right, and they needed this help. The thing that strikes me is when they do catch the spies. Remember they put the spies ashore, and I think there were either 5 or 7. And
my number is 6. But go ahead.
Okay, and they're caught, and they're caught. And FDR, there's no trial, there's nobody who has their rights or anything like that. He just kills them. They kill them, and there's one guy left that they catch, and they know there's a guy inside the United States who they call Brahms, interestingly enough, from the composer's name. And Brahms is a Nazi simp, and the spy knows where he is, and they track the spy. They have compromised the spy, and they get to Brahms. And I mean, that's for the rest of it. I want Dezenhall to talk about, but in the end, and no one is shocked, the government screws everybody.
Yeah, but Peter, I think you've kind of made my point, which is then, as you point out, the United States was on the verge of losing the war.
Oh, yeah.
We were desperate, and we were losing the war then meant being conquered by Hitler. Are we there now? Well, that's basically the question.
Yeah, but
are we going to go ahead and do what we have undone, go ahead and undo what we have done with trying to build bridges to Latin America? If you're blowing them up with our naval power, you're going to catch a number of people who are guilty, no question about it.
Well,
but based on what we saw our military do, and I'm Vietnam generation, you make mistakes. And what you end up with is, how shall I say? The old saying was, kill one innocent person, make 10 guerrillas. We're going to be killing people in boats who are innocent, and their families, whatever country they're from, are not going to like it.
Don't you think that the CIA knows, and I'm not a fan of the CIA, by any stretch of the imagination, when those boats leave, and the model was created by Pablo Escobar when the boats would go to Noriega and then they'd go to Fidel, and then remember they had the Thunder boats, and then they murdered the guy that was building the cigarette boat.
Yeah.
But they could outrun the Coast Guard, and they were bringing cocaine in that way, or they had what did they call it, the Colombian Air Force, where they'd land the planes and then they'd abandon the planes. And there's a book, I think it's entitled Fruit Palace, and they started weighing money. They couldn't count it fast enough that they had scales and they would weigh it on these strange. And then there's all this stuff about Mena, Arkansas, bringing in the drugs that way. No, that stuff has been it's the fiber of the country that gets destroyed.
But Peter, the question always has been on running drugs or whatever from Latin America. It's sort of like, what do you do with prohibition? If you decide that what you're going to do is the government is going to enforce it, then there are going to be a lot of people who are pissed off here and there and there.
You want to legalize?
And I can't help but go back to Vietnam, because the United States lost that war, and we've lost everything since then. And I don't think the military or the CIA has improved very much in their ability to be accurate.
I'm not defending the CIA on any and all levels, but I'm asking you then is, do you want to legalize all forms of drugs?
Yes, I will put it bluntly. Do I like the stuff? No. Have I lost a number of buddies after Vietnam to it? Yes.
Yeah.
Do I hate it? You bet your ass. But think about what happened in Prohibition. We've got the same damn problem.
That's how you got the gangs, and it's the same thing. That's how.
That's right.
You got the cartels. When you tell somebody, and this is, your point's well taken, but do you really want to legitimize one more drug?
Well, Peter, let me ask you another question. Now I'll close.
Okay.
But fundamentally,
hang on. Let me put him on hold. Put him on hold. Give him a chance. 303-696-1971. Alan Samuel, Machine Gun Tour is coming up in studio, and then the book, The Devil Himself. Stay here. everyone. 710 KUS, Denver's talk station, Saturday, September 6, 2025. 80 the high, 82 tomorrow. Alan Samuel coming up in studio next. And, of course, then the book, Meyer Lansky, the devil himself. On the line with us, a caller is staying. We're talking about the strike that took place last week, at the first part of last week. The Trump administration signaling that the devastating strike was only the start. Marco Rubio telling reporters it'll happen again. It was a dope boat. And so you're saying what again, Ralph, when we broke away, you said, I mean, the answer is...
Let me make 2 quick points here. Number one, when you look in the mirror, you look at the problem in America. My grandmother taught me that when you point a finger, you got 3 fingers pointing back at you. Was the problem during Prohibition Al Capone or the Volstead Act?
Well,
you legalized it, and basically at least the whiskey basis of the Capone and others went away. Now, my first drink was moonshine. I'm from the Ozark Hills. And fundamentally, take a look now, a little bit forward in time, at marijuana. Used to be the stay of, how shall I say, the gangs of Southern California, and I'll just leave it there with the motorcycle movie. Okay, that's the first point. If Americans are going to pay money for whatever, then you're going to have organized crime if you prohibit it. Now, whether if the crime is Italians or whether they are Mexicans or whether they're Colombians or whatever, it's just follow the money. My second point is we just had the best American military operation in the unit in the world, SEAL Team 6. And it just came out that they whacked 2 innocent North Korean fishermen in one of their operations that went bad. We don't have absolute knowledge. Forget what our Secretary of State says. He wasn't there. He's told everything went well. I question that.
All right, now,
we have collateral damage.
Response. The Chinese model prior to the revolution or prior to the time of the warlords, drugs, principally opium, destroyed the entire country. The entire system was destroyed by opium. The opium was brought, Franklin Roosevelt's mother's father.
Yep.
His name was Warren Delano. He was a principal importer of opium into China. The Mandarins looked the other way. They destroyed the people. They destroyed the heart. The Japanese invade. There's the time of the warlords. And it really gets back to a drug in that country. And the drug was opium, brought by non-Chinese to Chinese. And we've talked about it many, many times. There are so many of the books about the moments that take place afterward, and Mao has what he called the barefoot dog. They tell them, you know,
that's why they hate our gut.
No, they tell them. They come in to they're trying to communize, make rice communes, and they find dope smokers, opium smokers, and they tell them, we're coming back.
Yep.
And if we come back and you're still doing this, we're going to kill you. And that ended a lot of it. But look what drugs did, or a drug in particular, did to that one time the Forbidden Kingdom, the middle of the earth. And it did. The same thing happened many other places. When you take a look at places like Eskimo villages that are Native American people who never had alcohol, and alcohol hits them. And I was just in South Dakota in Sturgis, and you can see the devastation of that drug. Now, if you legitimatize and you legalize, I mean, we already got 2 legal drugs. We have alcohol, we have tobacco, and I'll give you marijuana. What are you asking for? I mean, what nonsense could you legitimately come up with? Like, let's legalize drugs. We watch enough of these idiots. I went to Vancouver, myself, Stefan, and Mark Crowley. I saw what legal drugs did to Vancouver. It's happening in this city as we speak. They had shooting galleries. They had, I mean, it's insanity. It's organized, and it's government insanity. If you allow it to happen, the other side of it is, so there this preemptive strike on a dope boat, and I listened to all the renting of the garments this last week on talk radio. Why doesn't it trouble me? I'm just not troubled by it. And maybe if you blow a couple more of them up, somebody might get although they'll continue to try. I mean, they'll continue to run dope up, and, and some of that stuff is state terrorism. In the case of Manuel Noriega, Pablo Escobar, Raul Castro, they knew what they were doing. They were bringing dope into America. It wasn't that they were doing it for tremendous amounts of money that went to Pablo Escobar. They all made money, but there was a principal reason to break. They wanted to do it. They knew what they were doing, and they knew damn well what they were doing. So, I don't know, Ralph.
May I take one final word?
Sure.
Final word is simply this. Your opium example in China is quite relevant, but it's the other side of the coin. It's the John Company. Remember that the reason that China could not stop the opium trade was that it was supported by the British East India Company, who forced opium into China, or forced it over the requirement.
There was something called the Boxer Rebellion. They tried
precisely,
to.
but that was after. I'm talking about Jardine Matheson. You're going back with the Delanotes. I'm going back to Jardine and Matheson.
Well, no, that's
one of the biggest drug company runners for the East India Company.
Yeah.
I don't think there is a good solution to this problem, Peter. I think it's just a question of which side we take.
Well, I'll tell you what. If you take the one side that says legitimatize or legalize, we were in Vancouver for 3 days, and it was so frightening to look at people that was perfectly legal. We saw a guy overdose, just drop like a rock, and the cops were out leaning on their car, and I mean you could see all the stolen goods for sale on the sidewalks. And by the way, that's how the British got their hands on Hong Kong and Kowloon, and that's how the Portuguese got Macau, and they literally took it from the Chinese during the Opium Wars. They lost the first round. The second round they won, and that's when they sieged Beijing, and it also was the beginning. I think it's the Manchus. It's the end of the dynasty, and the arrival of the warlords, and then the Japanese invasion, and Chiang, and everything that happens. And remember, when Chiang's Southern Army goes into Burma, the guy's name is Kunsa, and that's the beginning of the Golden Triangle, and that's when those guys get in business with the CIA and Air America, and they mule the dope. So everybody's responsible, but I'm just not heartbroken over hitting I don't know how much drugs were on board, but they were somebody's overdose headed your way, and some family's going to lose one of their kids. Thank you for your time as always. 303-696-1971. Alan Samuel has been a friend for such a long time, and I am a big fan. I've attended many of his shooting schools. I've represented him on the air for, many years. And to my dismay, and we also skied and boarded together too, and he's going to take machine gun tours. And I asked him, I said, would you talk about why, and Colorado gun laws, and how many gun shops we've lost, and what's taking place to the Second Amendment in the state of Colorado. And then this book that I just loved the book, Meyer Lansky, the devil himself. So where are we? Break time. We come back with the one and only Alan Samuel after this on 710 KNUS Denver's Talk Station. Stay here. everybody. 710 KUS Denver's Talk Station. Made it to a Saturday, the 6th morning of September 2025. The weather, 80 will be the high today, 82 Sunday and Monday, 86 degrees. A great show, and coming into a really good guest. Next hour, Eric Dezenhall with us about Meyer Lansky and the Second World War, the book entitled The Devil Himself. Introducing, and he's done lots of radio shows with us and has become a very good friend. His name is Alan Samuels, and he had Machine Gun Tours. They were longtime sponsors. By the way, they are still open and doing business, but I went out to see him, and we're sitting in his office, and he said, I'm moving. Good morning.
Good morning, Peter.
All right. And you said, as bad as 2025 is, wait for 2026. How many, I think you said this to me, how many gun shops were there in Colorado, say, 10 years ago?
I don't know the number 10 years ago, but I was going to say before SB 003 was passed, there was over 2,000 licensed federal firearms dealers in the state of Colorado. I know it was over 2,000.
Best guess now, how many?
I think we're in the low thousand, 1,000 plus. I know a significant number of people have handed in their federal firearms license and given up the business.
Handed over
to the BATF, which is what you have to do when you're getting out of the business. There's a whole shutdown procedure that you need to follow. For instance, we've contacted the BATF to start our procedure for shutting down the store. So,
when you told me that, I was just amazed. And I've trained with you. You've been an incredible instructor. And you said, wait for 2026. I know is it in August of 26 things get enacted?
Right. August, September is when we get a bunch of the bills become active here in the state of Colorado. Things like we can't have ammunition within arm's reach of people. So you know how when you're in the store and there's the ammo bars,
sure.
I'd like a box of defensive 9mm and then a box of ball ammo to go to the range. Well, now you'll have to ask me for that. It'll be behind the counter. No more ammunition on the floor, no more guns in arm's reach of people. We've currently had to put trigger locks on every firearm.
I noticed that.
Yeah, that's a state requirement that happened this year. We've already been audited multiple times by the Colorado Division of Revenue. They've been to my store 3 times, and that's been a complete mess. They've told us we were okay, then come back the next week. They don't even know what they're doing. So they told us we were compliant, and the next thing you know, I get an email that says, oh, we're not compliant. And I'm sorry. They said, I'm sorry, what I told you was wrong.
I'm going to get the phone line. I'm going to get the phone lines open right away. 303-696-1971. Here's a really tough question. What do you think Colorado is trying to do?
I think you're a good man to read between the lines, Peter. You're a very smart guy. I think that's why you and I have always got along really well. You understand what the writing is on the wall.
Sure.
And the writing on the wall is to legislate people like me who own a properly licensed firearms retailer out of the business. And if you remove the ability for the individual to make the purchase, you lessen the number of guns that are out there because you just don't have the retail locations or the firearms available that people want. That's the real thing for us. Come this next summer, you know what's on the shelves. You've been to my store a million times. I won't be able to sell most of those things unless you have the Colorado ID card that you've got to pass. You've got to pass the test and do all of the training for. So that means, I'm going to say probably 90+% of the population who walks into my store doesn't even know the pending legislation that's coming up next year. We're educating them.
So, is it when's the 12-hour training requirement for an eligible buyer? When does that kick in?
Oh, for the CCW, for the concealed weapon, that's already begun. That happened. I think it was a month or 2 ago. So
when I renew my CCW, will I have to go through a 12-hour training course?
Potentially, yeah. We'd have to go read it and make sure, depending on what you've qualified or what qualifications you currently meet in the state. You're just going to have to look at each person on an individual basis and make sure you do it. I actually renewed mine literally the month before the new regs went in. So what was that, July? So I went up to the Clear Creek County Sheriff's Department, submitted all my paperwork, and she goes, yeah, you're right at the end. I said, yep, because I think, I'm trying to remember how many days you get to renew early. You can do it like a month or two early. And I was right, I waited right till the end when it was legal.
I mean, I had, this is my first renewal, and
Okay.
I live in Denver, so there was a lot more hoops to jump through.
Oh, and I think there's going to continue to be more hoops in every area of firearms ownership and possession.
Also, hasn't there been a tax increase on firearms?
That what I would say is probably the one that hurt us the most as a firearms retailer is 6.5
Yeah.
excise tax, or as we like to refer to it, I call it the sin tax.
Oh, sure.
You're a bad person. You own guns and gun associated products, and you sell those to people. So, I mean, an interesting thing here is, let's just say you were coming to buy a battery, just a regular battery that you pick up at Walmart or somewhere, like a CR 2023, which is commonly used in a lot of red dot sites. But because it's associated with a firearm and sold in my store, I have to charge an extra 6.5 excise tax on top of the 4.6 sales tax that I already have to do. So, from a sales perspective, that immediately drove our sales down, because in the current economy, we know that I don't think we could say that people are doing well as a whole. I think they're not doing so well. And with that being said, they don't have those additional funds to buy those items that now have this huge sin tax on anything you buy in my store. Pretty much, I have to add that 6.5 on.
Ammunition, 6.5%.
Oh, so it's whatever a precursor firearm part is, and anything that is associated. And I've even asked the Division of Revenue to define the terms, and they say it is a precursor firearm part. Like, if the guy is buying a battery and he tells me that he's going to go put it in his watch, but he's buying it at my gun store, do I charge him the sales tax? They told me they couldn't answer that question.
303-696-1971. Alan Samuel is here, Machine Gun Tours, longtime friend, teacher. Sometimes I just ride my motorcycle to his shop and we sit in the office and talk. Handguns. What's it gonna be like on the 20s next year, the 20s in 2026, if I want to buy a semi-automatic firearm?
So a lot of the firearms that have detachable magazines are going to be, in essence, banned. I mean, it's not a true ban, because if you do get this Colorado ID card, which we don't have.
I was going to ask about that too.
We don't have the information on how to execute that now. Like, none have been issued.
So my driver's license is not an ID.
No, you're going to have to go through additional training and basically follow what's spelled out in SBO 03 as a requirements to get issued this card. And this card, and it's sort of like an exemption. If you've passed and got this card, you'll be able to come in and buy an AR with a detachable magazine, these types of things. So the majority of the firearms that we sell in the store will no longer be able to be sold without this card.
But if I were in Idaho, I would have none of these problems.
That is correct. They basically don't have additional state requirements. Idaho is one of those states where they do truly believe in your Second Amendment rights, and they follow the federal laws and guidelines. For instance, here, I mean, I call it sort of a money-making scheme.
Sure.
The feds offer us NICS, which is a way for a gun store owner to ship your driver's license information off to the federal government. They provide us the background check.
Yeah, I've seen you
But
do it.
what Colorado has done is they put an intermediary in the middle, and they put the CBI in between. So CBI, we submit our information in the Colorado Bureau of Investigation. They then send that information to NICS, and they also add their additional checks on that. But they also charge us a fee per.
They charge you the fee, or
the
me?
fee? No, they charge me, and I in turn, pass it on to you. But this service, if we just chose the federal level service, it's free. Like if I go to Idaho and I was a federal firearms licensed dealer and you were an Idaho resident, you came in, you went, I would like to buy this rifle, I would run your background check using a free service and not have to pass an additional cost on. Whereas the CBI makes money off of every purchase that we make here in the state for any firearm.
303-696-1971. How many of you were aware of any of this? Because until I really started reading after being out at Allen's, I went, this is really with intent. We were talking about in the last caller in the last hour about they now, legitimizing drugs. And it's hard to imagine that these people work on these shooting galleries for meth and heroin or wherever the hell. And yet, as they open up that gate, they shut down the Second Amendment. I mean, it's insanity.
I mean, if you think about it, if we can't go and ban the guns outright,
That's right.
I think is how they look at it. They're going to make it so financially and regulatorily difficult for me to operate business. In essence, they're getting what they want. I mean, this is the discussion you and I had at the store, which is, I told you, I'm done. Like, I'm tired of, division of revenue in the store. I'm tired of all of those things. And with that being said, I moved here 25 years ago, and now it's driven me out of the state. I now feel like Colorado is no longer a state I want to reside in.
303-696-1971. I didn't know this until I started to read. July 1st of this year. What happened July 1, 2025 in the state of Colorado?
I don't remember which one. There were so many laws. There's so many freaking laws, Peter. I forget that. Which one was July 1?
Beginning July 1, 2025, firearms dealers must obtain a state permit.
The state permit. Oh, that was a fiasco. Let me tell you about that. We had that's right. On July, you had the July 4th holiday.
Yeah.
All of my employees had to go get fingerprinted, which all of them pass background checks because they constantly buy guns in the store. But the state added an additional requirement. We had a 3-day window with the holiday in the middle, trying to get all of my employees fingerprinted so that we were then in compliance. So we had to pay, I don't remember what it was, $400 or $500, and now we're licensed for, I believe it's 3 years as a state firearms dealer. I mean, it's in my eyes, it's just another way to get revenue to the state when the federal, basically the licensing requirements for the BATF are going to be harder than anything the state gives us. But this is a way for them to layer on and add additional layers of bureaucracy, additional layers of fees, just like the CBI fee. Now I got to pay a fee to be licensed in the state of Colorado to sell guns. And you know what? They're not going to stop. I mean, I believe that.
No.
I mean, there's been talk about the micro-stamping initiative in California.
I'll talk about that because...
Yeah, the micro-stamp initiative, I believe California has done all of the science behind it. And basically what, in essence, the thing is, it's requiring handguns to have a unique serial number, for instance, embedded into the firing pin of the handgun, so that when that firearm is fired and forensically they look at a spent case, they can identify what firearm that was fired by that number that's on the firing pin. Now, if I'm a large firearms manufacturer and I have to create a unique identifier, a unique number for every firing pin for every gun that I ship to Colorado, if that's the case, a lot of those firearms manufacturers are just going to say, screw Colorado. We're just not going to ship our product to that state because this is going to cost us so much in this unique identifier that's in there. So I believe our state is sort of the right now sort of the testing ground for a lot of the work that's coming out of California.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
And they're going to run, if they can get this passed here. Yep. So, and again, we've just heard talk about the micro-stamping initiative. So if you turn that into an actual law, let's just say, and again, this is not currently on the books, but I'm just playing devil's advocate with you right now, Peter. If the micro-stamping initiative goes through, That would then mean any handgun sold potentially in the state of Colorado would have to have this unique identifier. How many handgun vendors and how many firearms do you think would comply?
And why would they?
Right. And so what they're going to do, in essence, that is I sort of call it a backhanded handgun ban in the sense, because if you can't sell the gun to me to then sell to you, right? Well, there's no guns to sell. So we just eliminate the supply. And that's what SB 003 is doing, eliminating the types of firearms that I can sell to you without possessing this Colorado ID card.
Do you guys in the audience, you get what's going on? I mean, can you conceive of, I mean, I was floored when I started to read this after a long conversation with Alan Samuel, who is sitting in studio with us now, 303-696-1971. And I was going, this is intent.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, and what do you think, this is in the open lines part of the show, but what do you think the intent is? And what do you think that Governor Polis and the Democrats in the House and the Democrats in the Senate and the bureaucrats, I mean, the bureaucrats are much a part of this because they come to your shop. It isn't there's not an elected official coming in and say, all right, let's see the books.
Right.
And the other part of it was, and I didn't know this until I was reading, unattended vehicles.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about that.
So if you have a firearm stolen out of your vehicle and you haven't reported it in a timely fashion, you're now liable for it. So don't leave your car with a gun in it and walk away or pay the price. I mean, the amount of legislation that this state is pushing through on anti-2A is what, I mean, that's been my motive.
When you say 2A, Second Amendment.
Second Amendment,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
That's totally what's driving me out of the state as a 25-year resident. I know there's more coming. Maybe it's that I'm getting older and just don't want to fight anymore and don't want to put up with it, right? And when I first moved here, you know, in 2000, this was my mecca. This was the state that I could snowboard, I could shoot guns, I could race my cars, I could do all the things that I love. And slowly but surely, all of these pieces have been taken away from me in this lovely state of Colorado. The state's still beautiful. I still love the physical state, but I don't like the politics behind it. And this is the comment I told you, Peter, right? Remember I told you, I said, I'm literally being legislated out of business. I mean, I wasn't planning on closing, but I don't see a way that with what we do today, we'd have to reshape our whole inventory, and who knows what'll happen with more legislation coming down the pipe. Now, again, like I said, the micro-stamping was something that I've heard that they're potentially talking about, but I know they have a whole bunch of other stuff up their sleeves.
And there's all kinds of penalties and fines that go with this now, too.
Yeah, we don't even know what they are relative to the Division of Revenue. Like they said, these first few meetings were just to kind of tune us up and show us what was right and wrong and to help us.
As though you need that.
Yeah, and you know, the fact that they told me I got an actual Division of Revenue agent who told me after we provided all the paperwork, I was in compliance. Then literally 2 weeks later, I get an email that says I'm no longer in compliance because I didn't do something else. And how could she physically be at my store telling me this, walk out of the store, and then 2 weeks later, so I email her and she's like, oh yeah, well, you got to do that. We didn't know about that. We're sorry. And I was like, but it doesn't work that way for me.
The music's there. Hold on. 303-696-1971. If you're trying to call the show and got a busy, jump in now. What do you think we're watching? Remember, what do you think you and I are watching here in Colorado? It is your turn. Lines are open.
Your KNUS forecast for the Denver metro area calls for a light jacket early this morning as readings 40s to just low 50s. You won't need it long, though. It'll be a beautiful late summer day. Still some smoke and haze, though, but otherwise dry. Mostly sunny, near 80 for a high, mid-50s for lows. Couple of showers and storms, possibly Sunday afternoon. Otherwise, another great day, highs mid-80s. Weather is a service of L&L Heating and Air Conditioning. For quick, trustworthy, and dependable service, call L&L Heating and Air Conditioning at 720-851-1691. Visit them online at bestdenverhvac.com. That's bestdenverhvac.com. You'll be comfortable with L&L. I'm meteorologist Mark Huer in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
morning, everyone. One line's open, 303-696-1971 with Alan Samuel in studio. Our friends at Water Pros, and Water Pros cares about the quality of your water, and you can remove forever chemicals and microplastics and hard water with Water Pros, a Peter Boyles special. Look, you get whole water softeners and point-of-use reverse osmosis drinking water systems fully installed. Now, start the process. Do this. This is just a gift. Go to waterpros.net and sign up for your free in-home consultation. Now, remember, free, the F word. They come to your home, they test your water, they answer all of your questions and concerns about your water, and you'll find, okay, is my water good? Is my water bad? These are the guys. I trust them. You will as well. Water Pros is family-owned and veteran-owned business dedicated to providing you with the best in water treatment for far less than the other guys. We have this system. It's great. Water Pros today. Request your free water test. The operative word, free. You get to know what your water is. 303-862-5554. 303-862-5554. 303-862-5554. Alan Samuel in studio. We start on line one. Joshua, you're on the radio show. Good morning and thank you.
Peter, good morning. How are you, gentlemen?
I'm well.
So I'm sitting here listening to you guys talk about all this, which it amounts to backdoor gun bans. I'm just wondering, how are we thinking that this is going to pass constitutional muster?
Alan?
Well, I mean, we know that, I think it was, I forgot which agency filed a lawsuit on SB 003. But the issue that I see is that in the meantime, lots of people like me are having to make hard business decisions prior to anything potentially getting overturned or reversed. So that's really where we're at. Let's say the bill goes into effect and the lawsuit's still pending, but at the same time I can't
bank on that. Yeah.
I can't be profitable as a business selling the things that the state's going to allow me to. I agree with you that I don't think in the long term it's going to make it, but they're just going to keep coming with all of these things.
And as the neutral observer, I'm not sure, Joshua. Do you think that the court would strike this down?
It's up in the air with the current administration. I know they're pretty two-way given, their track record with a lot of what's going on with the ATF and some of the NFA items that they've been trying to remove.
But if I look at the New York laws, the California laws, they haven't been struck down.
Right.
Well, last I heard, I thought one of the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals in California, the ban on 30-round magazines was overturned, wasn't it?
I think it was, but then something happened so that it was reenacted again. I don't follow California as much as I used to when I lived there. So I'm just dealing with, our state, and it just doesn't seem to be getting any better.
Josh, back to you for a second. Peter, what do you think the ultimate aim of all of this is?
Well, I think you guys hit the nail on the head. They can't outright ban it, so they're going to out-legislate it. He was saying it earlier that it's going to be too expensive, too time-consuming, too much red tape, and that's how they're going to get their bans through. I'm a Colorado native myself. I remember the scare of 2013. I remember all the gun bans that they keep trying to push through. They've been doing it for the past 25, 30 years.
Have you?
And it seems lately they've been making some real good head ground as far as their agenda goes.
Have you ever had to face the state deciding whether or not you were competent?
I have not.
That's coming.
Yeah,
isn't
I
it?
think you have to get 90% on the test
Yeah.
for the concealed carry now and live fire. So there were a lot of additional requirements that were placed on you in that space. So, it's a lot of legislation.
The state of Colorado will determine, Josh, whether you are competent or not, which is like some strange version of red flag. Do you really want some bureaucrat deciding on whether or not you're okay? I certainly.
I
no,
don't want a bureaucrat deciding what eggs I have in the morning, let alone whether or not I
There
can
you
own a
go.
firearm.
I like that.
But the point is, that's part of what the gun laws are now.
Yeah.
What's coming your way, and so any of us who have CCWs, don't I have to then go to the range?
Yeah, you're going to have to shoot, and I don't remember how many hours the course is. I also know that a lot of the
hours.
concealed carry instructors are no longer going to be concealed
Yep.
carry instructors because they have to be approved by the local chief of law enforcement, like the sheriff. And so let's just say you and the actual sheriff in the area you reside in don't get along for whatever reason. You know what I mean? And if there's no requirements on testing, it's will they allow you to teach in that county? And I already know of one instance with a personal friend of mine who has a beef with the sheriff, and they won't allow him to do concealed carry.
So he
cannot be an instructor in the county he resides in.
Well, then you're just going to fragment the state even more, because you got counties like Weld with Sheriff Reams, who are very, very pro-A, that say everybody and anybody, and then you got Denver County, and they say nobody. So,
Bubba, I went through Denver just recently, and it's many trips back. You go back and you give them what you think is required. Oh, you need something else, and I don't really blame the Denver PD that issues it, because they're being told what to do by elected officials.
They're hamstringed by their own administration and by their own officials. Yeah, I agree with you completely, Peter. It's a cycle here, and I think because we, the Democrats have had such a good luck with passing the anti-Second Amendment bills here in the state of Colorado, they're using us as a proving ground and taking this.
I agree.
So the legislation for SB 003, I believe it went to Washington next, and they've got some high-paid people writing these legislative pieces. I mean, the tech behind the micro stamping, somebody had to invest millions of dollars to do the research to propose a way in which to microstamp these firing pins. So that's all being paid for, financed by somebody, right?
Yeah.
And then they're taking these packages to all the states that have a favorable anti-Second Amendment lean to them, and they're just shoving them through. And we're that state right now. I mean, I've told Peter directly, I said, my desire is to get as far away from Colorado as I potentially can as soon as we close the store.
Josh, final comment.
Nothing. I just, it's a sad state of affairs. I heard what he was talking about, the snowboarding and hunting and all that. The Democrats, they showed that they can kill paradise if they really put their mind to it.
And indeed.
You're right. I never thought it would happen here when I moved here. But 25 years later, I've witnessed a great demise.
And if you watch this insanity of the streets here and all the nonsense that goes with it, same people did that are doing this. Thank you. Thanks for a good call, brother.
Well, thank you, gentlemen.
You're
you
welcome.
guys have yourselves a wonderful day.
You too.
I just go to Don. We have two lines open, 303-696-1971. Don, you're on a radio show. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
We're well.
So, I had to renew my CCW. Expired in May, so I sent it in online early. And because this is my third renewal, I didn't have to do anything. If I would have defaulted, then I'd have had to go through all that stuff.
If you'd have let it expire?
Correct.
Yeah. I did that once, and it was a pain. Second time around, and this is out in Jeffco, so I didn't have any issues with that. This whole thing that they're doing, in my opinion, is like you guys and other callers. They want to take away as much of our liberties as they can, and anything mentioning guns, is just like the number one on their hit list. They care more about that than the other crap that goes on in the Denver metro area.
That to me, last night I was reading all of this to get ready to be with Alan, and it struck me that the same people who are gifting you with all this insanity on homelessness and these shooting galleries and all this other craziness are the same people who are taking away your Second Amendment rights. And it's
Well, I think the Fed, hopefully, over the next year, will get a lot more teeth, and they'll get a lot of these other cities toeing the line. I don't know. I hear they're arresting people. I don't hear about cooperation. I don't hear that big mouth mayor running his pie hole about he'll go to jail. I mean, that all disappeared now that the action's going on. I feel for Samuels because it'll be too late by the time anything happens, if it happens.
he's a really
and
good,
other people.
not just
I know who Alan is. He and I, like you, we know some of the same people. But my condolences to you, man. It really sucks. I moved here in '71. I watched this state. I'm going to be 75 next year. I'm hoping to be out of here. I just have had enough.
So
I have no faith in anything's going to change.
I was going to say, this is a really good man. We've become great friends. On the competency exam, along with the live fire test, you got to pass a written test on firearm safety and laws with a minimum score of 80 or 90%.
I thought it was 90. Yeah, I
90%.
might be wrong, but
Okay.
I believe it was
So
that.
who gives the test?
I believe the instructor, the concealed carry instructor. does.
Who he or she has been okayed by the state.
And by the chief law enforcement area, or the chief law enforcement of the area that they're teaching in, I believe.
Best of your knowledge,
Peter, is that new applicants or people like us? Are we going to be grandfathered in?
It's going to be me. I think it'll be me, won't it?
I think this is for all people moving forward.
Yeah. It'll be you next time.
Moving forward?
Yeah.
All of us?
I believe so. And I know there are some exemptions. I believe, and I'm not completely versed on the whole CCW stuff. I mainly look at what relates to the actual gun store. But I believe that those requirements are going to continue for the future for new CCW and renewals.
And from my reading, that let me give this. This is from this is Adam just brought me in. In Colorado, the minimum passing score for a concealed handgun permit test is 80% on 80 on the written, 70% on live fire. And these requirements apply to both new and renewal applicants.
Correct.
So that would be you also. Following changes from the 24, now this all took place 1 July 2025, you must achieve a passing score of 80%.
Okay. Yeah, I
But that
apologize.
will be when my license expires next time. It's not something I have to do in the next year.
If you're current, this will be for your next renewal.
Yeah.
No, I'm 5 years current. Alan, what's the largest capacity magazine you can sell now?
15 rounds.
15
Unless
rounds.
you're law enforcement or military.
Yeah. And there were still people like myself, hopefully, that were grandfathered in prior to that law being passed.
Sure. Now, we don't know moving forward if some of the new laws that they're going to pass are going to grandfather people or not. But I think if we look at SB 003, I believe that the guns that you're in possession of before the bill goes in or is enacted, those will remain. You'll be able to legally retain those, so they'll be grandfathered. But I don't believe you have any way to transfer them. Let's say, for instance, to your grandson,
Yeah.
Peter. Like, you wouldn't have a way. Let's say you passed
I
away.
can't give my guns to my.
That is my understanding. That's where it ends. It's a one-time
Hey,
deal.
Don.
You get to keep it.
Hey, Don, here's a lousy question that you could tell me it's none of my business. How many firearms do you have?
Anywhere from 3 feet to about 3 blocks, to a total of 6.
So what will happen to his guns when he dies?
I believe you have to either destroy them or move them out of the state.
Did you hear that?
I'll give them to your son, Peter. He can worry about it.
But I mean, it's crazy. And there's no provision for any sort of financial, payback if you were to hand those in or what have you. So imagine someone handing over a 50 or 100 firearm collection
sure.
because all of those guns are no longer allowed in the state. I mean, it's.
What's to prevent me, Alan, from going and buying some older guns and bringing them in the state and claiming I had these 25 years?
I don't think there's anything that's going to prevent you. It might not be illegal, but hey,
There's a
Well,
great. There's
but is there some type of proof? I mean, I have purchased guns, long time ago, and I was given guns. My family were farm people.
Brother,
I grew up hunting.
Don, it's
been
Peter.
around
I'm
guns.
getting a heads up on music. There was this great moment on the Nixon tapes when Nixon asked John Mitchell, "Could we do this?" And John Mitchell said, "We could do it, but it would be wrong." Thanks, Bubba. We only have one line open. Legendary Alan Samuel in studio. Coming up, the devil himself. 710 KNUS. have Jam Lines. It's my song in the background. 80 will be the high. 82 tomorrow, Monday. It's 86 degrees. Alan Samuel Machine Gun Tours is with us. Coming up, the devil himself, about Meyer Lansky and FDR and the docks and organized crime and the beginning of the Second World War. David Ellis in Cherry Creek, and he and Alan are friends. You've heard me talk about taking your valuables to David Ellis Jewelers, and get a fortune in cash and secure an appraisal from David for all the valuables you have tucked away in your home. And it's still true. Let me share the other reasons, just in case you don't have a Rolex watch or rare coins or a silver tea set. Go see David Ellis for all your most meaningful gift-giving occasions. David Ellis Jewelers, just the right items, just the right price. Special people that mean the most to you. An antique watch, an emerald pendant, a gold necklace, a diamond ring. David is a very trusted man, and this trusted jeweler's been buying precious metals and antiques here in Colorado for decades. Dazzling cases filled with hundreds of new and used pieces your loved ones will treasure. Visit David Ellis Jewelers and see for yourself. Look for the black awning on the corner of 3rd and Clayton. He's there right now as we speak. The black awning on the corner of 3rd and Clayton at Cherry Creek. Explore davidellisjewelry.com. Call my friend David at 303-322-8779, 303-322-8779. 6 days a week. You tell David Peter Boyle sent you. Alan Samuel is here. Do one thing, because you're working today. Give a plug. I'm being asked, where is his store?
Where is Machine Gun Tours?
Yes.
Okay. We are located in Lakewood. We're right by Denver West or Colorado Mills Mall. It's 12550 West Colfax Avenue. And we're right off Colfax between Sims and Youngfield. Yeah. Super easy to find. You know how easy it is when you ride over.
Yeah, see it on the left-hand side. Pull in. You wanted to mention something before we go back to the phones.
Yeah, I know on the last caller, I just wanted to follow up and kind of give you some information about some stuff that you may or may not have heard about, which is, we're really not supposed to have any type of firearms registry, and it's not something that we're supposed to do. But a lot of people don't realize we recently required to fill out a new state form for every person who purchased any handgun. And for those of you that are familiar with buying a firearm, there's a federal form. It's called a 4473. It's what you must fill out, and all that information must match what's on your driver's license. That's all the details about the firearm that you're buying, where you're buying it from, the serial number, all that, and all of your personal details. And that is a federal form. And because the state does not get access to that form, they have enacted a law that makes us, as the lovely gun dealer, we have to copy all of your information from the 4473 into a state form and add additional few fields, including the color of the gun and your chosen occupation, which we've asked the state, people have told us to not so nice things when we ask them what their profession
What's their
is.
job?
Yeah, they don't want to record it.
How is that the state's business when they're buying a handgun?
It's basically a state fire or a handgun registry for the state
Sure.
of Colorado.
Oh, of course
it
it
has now started this year. We are required to keep these forms in our last Division of Revenue audit. They came in and looked to see if we had those forms. So, in essence, if the state wants to come to our store or any licensed federal firearms dealer and look at who bought a handgun last week, unlike the ATF, which has very specific rules when that information can be processed or used, the state has no rule. Like if they just decide, hey, we'd like to see if Peter Boyles bought a handgun from Alan at Machine Gun Tours,
sure.
They can come look at all of my books because they have duplicate access to the federal information. And a lot of people don't know that that database is being kept now by the state. And I'm required by law to keep copies of that form and have it available to any Division of Revenue agent when they arrive.
This is the right question. We have jam lines. This is Evan in Denver. Evan, go ahead and ask Alan, if you would.
Yes, I'll be as quick as possible and as rapid as possible because it's becoming kind of a standard story. But 3 years ago, a very dear lady friend of mine passed away. Inside of her estate, we found a Browning Sweet 16, which is a very classic shotgun. and one that I began to desire right away. At one time, she actually pointed at it while I was on the floor and said, "That's yours," because she was not an avid duck hunter or goose hunter, as I have always been all my life. She also had purchased a 380 handgun. I was with her when she purchased that. She felt she needed some sort of protection based on where she lived and her overall attractiveness. Her brother, who resides in St. Louis, actually finally took care of her estate.
Evan, because of time, ask your question. We're going to run out of time. Ask your question.
No question. The Browning Sweet 16 disappeared into the arms and hands of the attorney because John was told it was just too damn complicated.
He just took it.
He just took it. Yeah, that was it. Too complicated to give to me. And that's it, Peter. The whole thing is Max of Germany before World War II and Russia. So you have a good day, sir.
Thank you. There's a line, I think it was you, Trevor Roper, and they called it Fascism's Sweet Song. And I've been thinking about this for quite a while. Trevor Roper said, the sweet song of fascism is, I'll take care of you. And when told, I'll take care of you, it's a very sweet thing to hear. And then when you say, what do you want for that? And the sweet song sings, I'll let you know. And so you
never know what they're going to ask of you.
Indeed. We're going to come up. We're almost out of time. Hey, Nick, can you do it quick? Nick, you're on a radio show in studios. Alan Samuel, if you would.
Very quick. There are a lot of moving parts to this question, how we got to this point, but I put the majority of blame, not all the blame, but the majority of blame on the Republican Party.
Absolutely.
They have underestimated how dedicated these Democrats are to take away your freedoms.
Absolutely. You're 100% correct.
You're right.
That I visualize the Republican Party now as crabs in a pot, and as soon as one crab almost gets to the top, the other ones jump them and pull them back down in the water.
Exactly.
And you could not be more right. I think about that stuff all the time. Thank you so much. All right, final things you want to say? We're almost out of time. Alan Samuel from Machine Gun Tours. What would you like to say to the audience?
I want to say thank you to all the people that have patronized our business for all of the years that we've been in play. I will say the saddest thing, I think, for us leaving and eventually closing and leaving the state is the customer base. We have an incredibly wonderful customer base. A lot of it was generated right here. With you, we've done advertising, in the past on 710 KNUS, and you've always been a vocal, a mouthpiece for us in a positive way. And I love all those people, and I will be sad to see them go. But our time has come, and I want to.
You've had great employees. I mean,
we have great. All the guys love to see you, and they take care of you, even if I'm not there.
Yeah, no, they're wonderful.
And that's what I want to say is thank you. And we're not closed yet. No. We're going to be open probably at least 6 months more because we've got to shut everything down. Come see us, but I want to thank everyone for patronizing us for all those years.
And you're going north.
We're going north. It's going to be Idaho, Montana. Brooke and I are going to figure it out here pretty soon.
Brooke, Alan's close personal friend, is with us today. She's absolutely lovely. So congratulations on that too, man.
Well, thank you,
It's a
Peter.
tough time. It's a tough time. All right, everybody. Coming up in we're going to stream this next part of it. Eric Dezenhall, who's been with us before, is a really good historian, but he's a very good novelist. And he's done a book called The Devil Himself. And FDR, in defeating Adolf Hitler, said, I'd shake hands with the devil himself. Well, the devil himself was Meyer Lansky, and there's so much going on. The Normandy has burned. The idea of the Nazis coming ashore as spies and needed help catching them. So they turned to organized crime. The book's coming up. Thank you, Alan. Everybody hold on your hats. We come back. Eric Dezenhall, the devil himself. Better believe it. Good. Now do we say not quite. Good morning, everyone. One more hour, then it's good afternoon. Saturday, September the 6th, 2025. I'm Peter Boyles. 80 will be the high. Maybe a little bit of rain. 82 tomorrow. Monday, 86, 87 on Tuesday. Couple of quick reminders. The MC1 Honor Run is coming up on Sunday, September the 28th. Starts at Columbine High School, and that's really, really significant. We'll talk more. Eric is not ready to go yet, so let's just continue in open lines. Let's go to Frank. Frank, you're on the radio show as we stand by for Eric Dezenhall talking about Meyer Lansky, the devil himself. You're on the air, sir.
Pete, thanks for bringing Alan in to discuss some of these issues when a group of people is targeted like the current Democrats have done. I think, speaking of this topic of competence, we're probably needing to come up on a Colorado ballot initiative to establish the competence of our legislators.
Good luck with that.
Well, there's a new thing out with AI. It's a thing called Speedball EEG, and in 3 minutes on the internet, you can take a person and determine their competency, quote, by this particular test. But this competency test for the legislators would be one to eliminate prejudice, bias, or extremism. And, good luck with that. But I think we need to at least air those possibilities, because we certainly see what a one-party rule for the last 15 or 20 years has done to this state, where they're singling out groups of people.
But once again, Frank, it's like, we talk about prize fighting analysis or analogies, and the Republican Party is the reason why.
No, I get it.
I mean, and until that time comes, it's going to get worse. And until they remove their heads from a part of their bodies. And, most of this state, in terms of political affiliations, they are unaffiliated. They're not Republicans and they're not Democrats. But those unaffiliated find themselves voting for the Democrats. Who wants to have some insane person running for office that has said the kinds of things that the Republican candidates have said? It's ruined talk radio. It's driven reasonable people away. It's ruined the Republican Party. I mean, look at the things that have been said in the last 4 or 5 years in this state, and people have now paid a price for that. But, there has to come a moment where people look at the state and see what things that we have said about what's happened here. I mean, imagine there is you can go shoot dope, and there's protected needles, and they take away your right to a gun. It's organized insanity. Yet,
I do have hope that somewhere out there's a conservative candidate that will appear in Colorado that will rise to this occasion and offer what you're talking about, a fair and balanced argument that will be able to influence enough of the independents to change the state. I still am hopeful of that. I haven't seen it yet, but I think that person is out there somewhere.
Who would that person be?
I don't know yet, but I'm hopeful for some of these younger people coming on. I look at the thing like some of the people like Charlie Kirk and things like that, even though he's pretty far right. But he does introduce a lot of information that is gleaned from the internet, and that's where it's all going. I mean, there's just such a flood of information for people to keep up with. You know this. You try to keep up with it.
Sure.
And it's incredible. And how do you filter it out? And then with AI coming along, how do you filter AI? The government wants to have a hand in that to limit it, because they want to control what's that Smith-Mutz Act that allows that Obama got passed to allow the what is the word, politicization or the propagandizing the people, that was legal for that kind of stuff to drift out there.
But again, there comes a moment, and there has to be a make-break, or there has to be a tipping point, and it goes back to that, and I think it was Trevor Roper that did the Fascism Sweet Song. The game that's being played right now really is the I'll take care of you. And when your ask is, what do you want to take care of me? And the voice says, I'll let you know.
It's amazing to me, in a nation of the most astute consumers ever, that we don't have more critical thinkers that can discern and put aside some of these arguments that are made.
We opened with the end with John Caldera, and we were talking about 1984 and Winston Smith, and
you said believe.
Believe is the operative word. It applies to religion. It applies to stolen elections. It applies to all kinds of things, and they're belief systems. They're not scientific. There's no knowledge connected to this, and so now you have a Republican Party that shrinks. And given all the insanity that any of us are watching, you would think that they would be growing, but they're not.
Well, the propaganda out there is slick, and it's tied to emotion, and it's intended to sway people's vote, and that's what we've got now.
Thank you. As always, a good call. Let's go here. Hey, Chris, you're on a radio show Saturday morning. Thank you.
How you doing?
I'm good.
Good. I could see a light at the end of the tunnel if they were doing things to solve the problem, but they're doing things to make it worse. You know how underfunded the Denver police are, right? Yeah. How short they are?
Yes.
They are unbelievably short. And what they did is they just canceled. They had what's called backfill days. They paid police overtime to work a shift if they.
But they don't seem not to have money to buy homeless hotels.
Exactly, or illegal. Yeah, exactly.
No, it's insane. But that's the Democratic Party.
It's getting so scary.
Well, do you?
I feel sorry for the police that are working out there now.
No, of course. Do you believe that this mayor, who, as bad as I thought the last one was, this guy Capsum, do you believe that this mayor will get reelected?
Probably.
Yeah.
That's what's scary.
No. Your answer is absolutely right. Probably.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know.
No, but I realize
Colorado. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I realize you don't know, but and I don't know either. I mean, none of us know, but again, we come back to this belief system. I believe that this thing's going to hell in a handbasket, and
it is.
And that goes back to Trevor Roper and what he said, and this is insane. And what more do you want? I don't.
Yeah. I don't know. I wish that there was something I could. And all I could do is vote and do that. I wish there was more. I'd get out there, but it's some scary stuff.
When I listen to cheerleaders for the Republican Party on radio shows, I just crack up.
Oh, I know it.
All right, man.
I know it.
Take care.
Well, you have a good day.
Thank you. We go to Wyoming, and Jack, you're on the show. Good morning to you.
Morning, Cranston. How you doing?
My boy.
AI, that's all you hear about is this artificial intelligence. Isn't that just another name for a Democrat?
No, I think it's the other way.
But what we're missing, what we're really missing, is we've never had an opposition party. Forget about Republicans. You don't have any opposition. You don't have a pushback group of people that push back, and they let them get away with all this stuff. If you had a resistance and a pushback to the Democrats, they wouldn't get away with all this. That's what's missing.
No,
That's exactly what's missing.
I don't believe that for a second. I believe there has to be the candidate, and the candidate is most important, and what the message of the candidate is. And I listened to the Republicans, your so-called resistance, saying the most insane, lunatic statements of all time, conspiracy theories and just stuff that's in the wilderness. And then you tell me we need a resistance party? Yeah, that's your resistance party.
Okay, so the quality of the resistance, and is what you're talking about.
And that's what we're talking about. You know, you show me.
They're not effective at pushing back against
No, they push back with insanity, and they attack each other and rip each other's throats out, and the crazy person runs.
But the point is, the Democrats wouldn't get away with all that they get away with if we had people that would stand their ground and go knee to knee and toe to toe with them.
You got to find. Look, they go knee to knee, they go ground to ground, they go all of these things that you're saying, but they come up with such insane, inane things that a person says, look, I'm going to vote for the Democrat because I can't take the craziness from the Republicans. Come on. I mean, Colorado, just, it's a lost cause because the idea is, listen, I got the guest. I appreciate folks on the phones. We'll get them again next week. Please say good morning. I look at my time here. 12 minutes after the hour. I am such a fan, and he hit the home run. Please welcome. He's on the Zoom with us. Eric Dezenhall was with us, the book, The Devil Himself. Welcome back, Eric. God, man, I love you. Thank you for coming back on the show.
No, very happy to do it. We had fun talking about the other book the last time.
And I just finished The Devil Himself, and I said right away to Adam, get Eric back, and you're back with us. So what's the best thing to do? Begin at the beginning. Winston Churchill, I think I remember, said he would crawl on his hands and knees to Moscow to defeat Hitler. And FDR said he would shake hands with whom?
The devil himself.
Bingo. And who's the devil?
That would be Hitler in the case of the book, and in the case of reality, as far as I'm concerned.
And when he said the devil himself, that was looking for his ally, like Churchill talked about, on his hands and knees to Moscow, to Stalin, to defeat this man.
Well, I think that the question always comes when you're at war. What are we willing to do?
Yep.
And I think that most modern Americans really have no conception of what war is. I mean, we hear that somebody gets killed, there's collateral damage, and we call it genocide. It's not genocide, it's war, and war is horrible.
Yes.
And I think that the catalyst for the devil himself was this. For many years, I had access through family members to the private records of Meyer Lansky, arguably one of the most powerful mobsters of the 20th century, Jewish. And I wasn't quite sure what to do with it. And along came 9/11. And there was a big debate about what are we willing to do to deal with these terrorists, because there's always the school of thought, well, negotiate, we'll talk to them. And I'm not going to get into whether or not you think the Afghanistan or Iraq was a good war or not. What I'm narrowing in on is something very specific, which is the will to defeat an enemy. And what was very clear to me is FDR in World War II was absolutely unapologetic about doing whatever was necessary. The largest cruise ship in the world had been blown up a few weeks after Pearl Harbor on the docks in New York. Whether it was sabotage or not, I'll let you read the book. But there was a lot of fear about, was this the German version of Pearl Harbor? In World War I, German saboteurs had blown up a munitions storage area off the coast of New York.
Black Tom.
The explosion was felt as far away as Maryland. Roosevelt himself was nearly killed when an anarchist blew up the Attorney General's house a few blocks from where he lived. So by the time World War II was getting close to happening, he absolutely didn't care what needed to be done. And the Navy went to the docks in New York, and they tried to seek the cooperation of the dock workers, but they learned a hard lesson. Dock workers were not interested in talking to them. One theory was many of them were Italian. Were they loyal to Mussolini? That really wasn't the case. What was the case is the kind of guys who worked on the docks are not the kind of people who talk to those in Europe. That's not who they are. And they needed permission in order to cooperate. And I'm grossly oversimplifying this. And the district attorney at the time said, well, maybe you should talk to some of the mob people. And they said, well, we tried to talk to some of the Italians, and they weren't terribly cooperative. And the district attorney said, there's somebody else I think you need to talk to. And Commander Charles Hoffenden of Naval Intelligence sat down with Meyer Lansky, and one of the reasons they were interested in Meyer is, number one, he was Jewish and well aware of what was happening in Eastern Europe. As far as, I mean, we didn't know everything back then, but we knew some. Number two, Meyer had attempted to enlist in the Army, but was rejected because of his age. In 1942, he was 40, and his height, he was 5'4", and they knew that this was a different type of mobster. And Meyer listened to Commander Hoffenden's pitch, and he said, I'll do it. It's patriotism. And he went up to see his long-standing business partner, Charles Lucky Luciano, who was in jail, doing 30 to 50 on a dubious prostitution beef.
Do you think he was, if I can interrupt, because I'm a geek about reading about this, do you think Lucky was set up?
Yeah, I think that here's what I think happened. I think it was a dirty case.
Yeah.
I think the idea that the head of the most powerful mob family in the country is personally supervising prostitution houses is pretty preposterous.
Yeah.
That's not how it would have worked. The way it would have worked is maybe somebody under him was doing it and kicked money up. But this was the first pre-RICO case of something RICO-like, where Dewey prosecuted him by basically having an attenuated connection to it. They brought in prostitutes who said, oh, yes, Charlie Luciano was involved. They insulted him by alleging sexual dysfunction. So do I think Luciano was a big mobster? Yes. Do I think that he was aware that some of the people who worked for him were into prostitution? Yes. Do I think he had anything to do with supervising this particular racket? No.
I agree.
So he was sent up to a prison close to the New York, Dannemora, close to the Canadian border. He had been away for 7 years when Meyer Lansky shows up with deli food.
I love that. I love that he brought deli food. Let me do this. I'm being told to signal we're going to take a pause. The book is The Devil Himself, and St. Martin's, I believe, is your publisher, and it's such a read. And I'm going to ask you this question. Do you like Meyer Lansky? Answer it when you come back on the other side. Hang on, everybody. 710 KNUS. Saturday morning, everyone, 710 KNUS. I'm Peter Boyles on a Saturday morning, 6th of September, 2025, and looks like 80 and 82 tomorrow, maybe a little bit of rain in the cast, zooming with us. And the book is terrific. The Devil himself, and Eric Dezenhall is with us. I broke with this question, and I've pondered this myself. Did you like Meyer Lansky?
Well, there's a little squeamishness about how much I talk about certain aspects of this from certain of my sources, but I'll dance around this. I chose to write The Devil himself as historical fiction, and the reason why I did this is even though the story is a true story, I wanted to be able to convey things about who he was as a person that it required a certain amount of opinion and interpretation, which is not something you can do in a straight nonfiction book like Wise Guys in the White House.
Oh, yeah.
That's straight nonfiction. But there's the way I tell the story in The Devil himself is there's somebody very much like me who, as an adult, is the interlocutor with Meyer Lansky during the last weeks of his life. That never happened in real life. I did not, as an adult, sit down with Meyer Lansky, who then told me how everything went down. But this does not mean I don't have a certain degree of familiarity with aspects of him and his life. I'll leave it there. I found what I was interested in is this was not a homicidal maniac. This was someone who became a gangster as a means to an end. Yeah. And this was the kind of person who was very familiar to me with some of the people in my background who were not the kind of people who were interested in hurting people gratuitously. Meyer Lansky had no objective of being a gangster. What he wanted to be was a Kennedy or a Pritzker or an Annenberg or a Rockefeller. But certain factors in his life prohibited that from happening. I have a certain amount of affection for him because of a similarity to certain people in my own background who I now understand as an adult were doing the best they could with what they had. And I think Meyer Lansky is an example of that. And one of the things that was very important to me in telling this story is there's a lot of people who think that he worked on this program for cynical reasons. And there were certain things in the World War II effort that were of self-interest. He did want to get Charlie Luciano out of prison, which he succeeded in doing. He didn't mind the idea of cultivating aspects of the government for his own benefit. But I think that someone of his generation were desperate to become Americans. He was desperate to be seen as an American. He did not have to try to enlist in the Army. He did not have to send his son to West Point, which he did. Yep. This did not gain him any strategic advantage in gangland. And I found his life to be a tragedy because at a number of occasions, he tried to make the turn to legitimacy, but for a variety of reasons we can discuss, it didn't work out. So do I deny that Meyer Lansky was a gangster who was involved with some dangerous bad stuff? Not at all. But I also think that this was someone who attempted redemption on a number of different occasions, including with the World War II episode, but had a limited ability to turn things around.
He was aware of the pogroms when he was a little kid. He said he grew up in Poland, but it really wasn't quite Poland. And Robert Lacey's book, Little Man, Meyer Lansky and the Gangster Life, and he talks about that moment where he has a brother. His brother's name is Jake, I think, and he
yes, it is.
Yeah, and he tells him, "I know how to win at the games on the street games. They're kids." And he said, "You control the games." And when he meets Charlie Luciano, and what Charlie does Charlie beat him up?
Well, there was a confrontation. The most reliable story is that Luciano tried to shake him down at a game he was running, and Meyer told him, in colorful language what he could do with his protection money.
Yeah.
And Luciano just laughed because Lansky was tiny, and rather than succumb to Luciano's extortion, Meyer threw down, and and Luciano, they became friends for life at that moment.
One of the things that you write in the novel or in the book that I love this book, by the way, that how Bugsy Siegel gets his name, as the cop said, there you got bugs in the head. I've never heard that before. Is that
crazy as a bed bug? Yeah.
Yeah. Is that true?
Yes. Yes. And nobody called him Bugsy.
No.
He was very, very self-conscious about the fact that people thought he was mentally ill, which he was.
Yeah.
He wasn't stupid.
No.
But you can be very smart and be mentally ill. And, Meyer was very much the brains of the operation, and Ben Siegel, the answer to everything was fighting. And that was very useful in those days, because while Meyer was capable of violence, being very, very small, this was not exactly his favorite thing to do. And I think one of the things you encounter when you write about the mob and you meet some of these guys is you see some of these guys are racketeers, which means a businessman breaks the law, and some of them are gangsters in the sense that it's all about walking into a restaurant and having everybody go ooh. So for Siegel, it was very he was a racketeer as well, but he was really a gangster. He as someone who was very powerful still went on murder hits. He didn't have to do that, but he liked it. Meyer didn't.
So that's a true story of how he becomes Bugs, or Bugsy, is the cop says if we drilled a hole in your head, the bugs would come out.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a version that says a judge said this kid's crazy as a bed bug.
Okay.
But Siegel was very self-conscious about people saying to him that he was crazy, because he was a very vain guy, and he wanted to be seen as a sophisticate, as a very polished sportsman. He tried very hard, like Meyer, to better himself, but whereas Lansky, it was more intellectual. I mean, I sat in Meyer's among his books, and I went through his books, and in pencil he would make notes. There were things like must look up Thucydides. I looked through his economics books, and he was very, very interested in learning. And even though he was interested in certain aspects of refinement, with Siegel, it was all about the clothing. It was all about a look. Whereas Meyer, that wasn't so much his thing.
The story then is true about Ben Siegel and the Countess. I've read that story.
Oh yeah.
That they were going to kill Mussolini, or whatever they were going to do.
Well, the book, Devil Himself. I talk about this, and where Ben Siegel was actually in a cafe when I think it was Goering and Goebbels came in.
Yeah.
And I'm going to kill these guys.
Yeah.
This was years before World War II started. And when World War II ended up happening, and this was actually depicted in the movie Bugsy,
yes,
he hatched a plot to kill Mussolini by trying to sell him gunpowder to get in with him with the weapons. And Lansky said, "Are you out of your mind? That's not what we do. What we do is we harass Nazis in New York." And what began with yes, I mean, in the 30s, the German-American Bund, people find it hard to believe that there was an active Nazi party in New York, of all places, but there was. And Meyer and other mobsters, they sent crews down to beat the living crap out of them. And the combination of the fact that the Nazi sympathizers were dealt with violence, and the fact that public opinion turned against them, and people like Charles Lindbergh, who were sympathetic to Nazis, by the time the 40s came around, there was no huge resistance in the United States. What there were Nazi saboteurs in the United States. What there were Nazi spies, and Lansky and his guys dealt with them and made, in Operation Underworld, the Navy program, they made it very, very inhospitable for Nazi sympathizers.
Sidebar story, over 10 years ago, I did an interview with Tony Curtis, and it was a highlight for me. And he was in town in the play Some Like It Hot, but he was playing the role that Joey Brown played. He played the old man. And we sat in the studio, and he told me many things, but he told me when he was a boy, he's Bernie Schwartz, that they dropped water balloons full of urine on the Bund when the Bund marched. He told me he did that. And I believe him. I mean, but I thought, what a story. And
well, I think what's important to remember about all of this is, Meyer came from what is today Belarus, in the same area where my own grandfather came from. And, Meyer had witnessed the Cossacks not just say, we're going to kill you. He saw a rabbi being drawn and quartered and ripped apart
by horses. Yeah.
And so when someone of Meyer's generation hears anti-Semites say, we're coming to kill you, he doesn't say, I wonder what they mean by that. He says, they're coming to kill us.
Yes.
And so he felt that this needed to be dealt with violence. And I think one of the ways he got involved with this anti-Bund activity is prominent people in the Jewish community were wrestling with the fact, what kind of people are we? And do we fight? Because a lot of people in the Jewish community then said, we don't get involved with hurting people. We educate. And you had Meyer and people like him going, you're going to educate people who want to kill us? You're going to have a seminar? No, you kill them. And in fact, a few years later, when money was being raised to help fight
State of Israel.
The Israeli troops fight the Arabs, because the UN decided there would be in Israel, and the Arabs immediately attacked Israel. Ben Siegel was approached to raise money, and he asked the guy, the Israeli, he said, look, are you going to take this money and sit down and have reading sessions trying to educate the Arabs, or are you going to kill them? Because I'm not screwing around with you. Any education programs, and the representatives said no, we need guns. We're going to fight them, and Siegel said, you got it.
Much like again today, history is so repetitive that did you see? I'm sure you do see it again, and come back.
It's exactly what's happening now.
No, of course. One question, then we'll go back to the beginning of the Second World War. Who do you think killed Ben Siegel in that night in Las Vegas?
He was killed in Los Angeles.
Oh, Los Angeles, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it is an unsolved murder. There's things I can tell you, and then there's parts that are speculation. What I can tell you is the idea that he was stealing from the Flamingo is something that none of his serious partners believed, but it's a fun story. And the whole mobophile world loves the idea that he was stealing. Meyer didn't believe it, and Meyer's lifelong business partner, Jimmy Alo, who, if you saw The Godfather Part 2, Hyman Roth was Meyer, Johnny Ola was Jimmy Alo. That's not what was happening. What Ben Siegel was doing is he really did not know how to behave. And so investors would give him $1 million, and then they'd say a year later, hey, how's the Flamingo coming? And rather than saying, look, Peter, I understand, you're impatient, and I respect that. Just give me a few more months. I need a little more money. That's not what Siegel would do. He would fly off the handle. He would tell them to go screw themselves. He wouldn't show up to meetings. So not only was that happening, but other things were happening at the time. Siegel was moving in on Los Angeles rackets, and there was a working relationship with the Los Angeles Cosa Nostra. It's made into being more adversarial than it was, but there were tensions. But the thing that I believe was probably the catalyst were a couple things. One was Siegel was beating up his girlfriend, Virginia Hill, who was the girlfriend of other mobsters, including Mo Dalitz, who arguably is the most powerful mobster to ever come out to run Las Vegas. At the same time, Siegel was attempting to charge the Chicago outfit for use of their own racing wire. Now, the racing wire is a complicated story that we don't have time to get into, but the bottom line is that Luciano and Lansky said, Ben, these guys have a legitimate claim. You're trying to charge them to be able to use their own wire service. They've got a claim here. And rather than going, you know what, good point, Siegel continued to muscle in a variety of ways on the wire service. And it is the belief of some rather serious people that the combination of beating up Virginia Hill and the wire service issue caused someone to act. Now, I can't insult your intelligence as someone born in 1962, tell you that I know what happened in 1947, but it is conceivable that somebody said, look, this guy is pissing off everybody.
Yep.
I'm just going to go do it.
Yeah, no, I've read that her brother may have been the shooter.
That's one theory.
Yep. Hey, listen.
And he was in the house at the time.
Here's music. Stay here, right back.
Okay.
Hang on, everyone. 710 KNUS. I'm Peter Boyles.
Your KNUS forecast for the Denver metro area calls for a light jacket early this morning as readings 40s to just low 50s. You won't need it long, though. It'll be a beautiful late summer day. Still some smoke and haze, though, but otherwise dry. Mostly sunny, near 80 for a high, mid 50s for lows. A couple of showers and storms, possibly Sunday afternoon. Otherwise, another great day, highs mid 80s. Weather is a service of L&L Heating and Air Conditioning. For quick, trustworthy, and dependable service, call L&L Heating and Air Conditioning at 720-851-1691. Visit them online at bestdenverhvac.com. That's bestdenverhvac.com. You'll be comfortable with L&L. I'm meteorologist Mark Huer in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
710 KNUS on a Saturday with an incredible guest. Let me set this up. Eric's last name is spelled Dezenhall. The book is entitled The Devil Himself. St. Martin's is his publisher. And it is a Saturday morning, and we're going to hit the 80s. And he's a tremendous guest. I could keep this guy for about 5 days. One more question, and then we'll go back to during the Second World War in Lansky. Virginia Hill, was the flamingo named? Virginia Hill was tall, had red hair, long legs, and if you fashion a flamingo, it would be Virginia Hill. I've read that Bug Siegel or Ben Siegel named the casino after her. What do you think?
Well, you know, I think the name was there before he was deeply involved.
Okay.
But it's a great story, and he may well have named her that afterwards. I think that the great myth of Ben Siegel, and they show this in the Bugsy movie, he walked into the desert and he had a vision. He had a vision of Las Vegas. Well, Las Vegas was already there. It wasn't much, but what Ben Siegel did is when the flamingo was starting to be developed, he muscled in on the guy who started doing it. And I think what you can give Ben Siegel credit for was catalyzing the fancy aspects of what Las Vegas became, because it was kind of, you know, they were dust joints for the most part. And so I do think Siegel brought his personality into it, but he didn't invent it. He exploited what was already there, and he muscled in on somebody who was having financial trouble. But the flamingo story about the nickname is dubious. What I do think is true is he was really obsessed with this woman. I think that she had quality that you know, a 16-year-old boy would understand this, where you become obsessed to the degree that it makes you crazy. But this was not a 16-year-old boy. This was a 40-year-old man, and so I think that she drove him so crazy because she got involved with other mobsters too, that he could fly off the handle. And the few days before the murder, his murder, he beat her up terribly, and she left town, and the rest is history. He was sitting in the living room of a house that Virginia rented. He paid for it. In TV shows or movies, they show him getting shot through a plate glass window. I've walked the location. Not what happened. It was a tiny side window, and he shot, and the killer shot past Ben's friend Al Smiley, whose daughter Llewellyn was very, very helpful to me in some of my work. And the shot went behind Smiley and hit Siegel twice, in his cheek and neck. And when it shot out his eye, the bullet went in here and it came out the other side, which is where you got the whole Mo Green thing. But they're very colorful stories.
When she appears, I'm a Virginia Hill reader. When she appears before the House Select Committee, if the story is true, she said that she was the best at doing certain things, and that's why. Is that true that she did say that?
No, it's not. It's true that she was very abrasive, but there's a certain phrase I won't utter.
No, I know
that has become a phrase that I'm so good at this particular thing that's why guys like me.
Yes.
I combed the congressional records because I too believed that. And in an earlier version of Wise Guys and the White House, I had incorrectly, in a draft, put that she had actually said it. But that's something somebody said
that she said,
that she said later. But it's a much better story than the truth.
These stories are so. I've been enamored with these stories, and I don't know why. I'm drawn to the mob stories.
We all are. They're great.
They're
we
wonderful.
Love gangsters.
And the Kennedys, and that part of the book where Meyer said, they can't be the Kennedys, and Joe Kennedy was as involved as anyone, I believe. And true.
Joe Kennedy, in my other book that we discussed a few months ago, Wise Guys in the White House, I debunked the idea that Joe Kennedy was a bootlegger. Joe Kennedy was not a bootlegger. What Joe Kennedy did is he had a lot of liquor holdings, but he was able to buy liquor interests before the end of Prohibition, so that when Prohibition ended, he was able to exploit it. And one of his business partners was none other than the President Roosevelt's son, who didn't want to get involved with liquor, but he got involved with an insurance company. But what made Joe Kennedy brilliant was he was able to dance along the edge of the law. And people desperately want to believe he was a bootlegger. What he was a stock swindler and a thief and things like that. But he was not a bootlegger. He was too smart.
Did he know Frank Costello? Did he know those guys?
Oh, well, I don't know that he knew Costello, but he did know some of these guys. He knew Jimmy Aiello because he had a hidden interest in the Hialeah racetrack in Florida. He had a hidden interest in the Cal Neva gambling lodge, and so he did know these guys. He also used mob muscle in his work owning the Chicago Merchandise Mart to keep peace. So he was involved with mob activity. He just wasn't a bootlegger because, look, Joe Kennedy didn't even like being Irish. He did not want to be known as Irish bootlegger.
Well, he didn't want people. Well, he's a whole separate story, and I have this theory that he double-crossed the devil, and the devil took his children one after another for what he had done, and he sat on that porch after that major stroke, and he couldn't get to the mob, and he couldn't tell everybody, and Jack loses his life, and then every generation they take a Kennedy. I realize that it's not, it's nothing but he went to the crossroads like Robert Johnson allegedly, and I think he made a deal. That's Pete Boyles stuff. Forget about it. So Meyer Lansky helps the Office of Naval Intelligence. The Normandy is burned. And the other part of it I want you to talk about, I'm looking at my time, what FDR does with the captured spies. That's really important.
Well, what Meyer Lansky, the service he provided, there were a few. He made certain that people on the docks cooperated with naval intelligence. They planted naval intelligence on the docks. They planted naval intelligence on fishing boats and cargo boats in order to watch out for Nazi saboteurs. And Nazi U-boats had been seen in the Hudson River. They were sinking. They had killed a lot of our troops, a lot of our sailors, rather. And so this was very real. This was not paranoia. And the other thing is Mafia the naval intelligence infiltrated unions that had jobs like waiters in local hotels. And in April of 1942, Nazi saboteurs, 8 of them, 4 of them came ashore on Long Island, 4 of them came ashore in Florida, and one of the guys, the main guy, turned himself in immediately to the FBI, but they couldn't find the other guys, and they were rounded up in part because of tips from Union guys who naval intelligence had gotten to. There's a lot of speculation as to how much it was FBI and how much was mob, but let's just say that the 8 saboteurs were rounded up. FDR wanted them executed.
I have a minute to our break. You're kind enough to stay. It's really important.
I can stay a little bit after.
Fair enough. Okay. So the book, The Devil Himself, Eric's last name is Dezenhall, and we'll talk about FDR and justice when they caught the saboteurs, when they caught the spies, and also what goes on with Meyer Lansky and organized crime. And they call him Joseph Lanza. When you read the technical part of it, he's called Socks for a reason. We come back on the other side. MC1 Honor Run is on Sunday the 28th. 80 will be the high, 82 tomorrow, 86 Monday. Hang on, everybody. Good afternoon, everyone. 710 KNUS on a Saturday, the 6th of September, 2025. 80 the high, maybe a little bit of rain. 82 Sunday, Monday, 86 degrees. Just a fabulous guest. It's his second appearance, and I hope it's not his last. The book is The Devil Himself. Eric's last name is spelled Dezenhall, and it's about Ben Siegel and, of course, Meyer Lansky and how instrumental they are in helping the Office of Naval Intelligence. It was called Operation Underworld, and the government recruited criminals to watch out for German infiltrators and submarine saboteurs. He is a fabulous guest. When we broke away, and thank you again for staying, we're talking about FDR and what happens to the saboteurs, because people talk about, well, you have a right to this and a right to that. What did FDR do and why?
He wanted them executed immediately, and he was told by his advisors that you just can't summarily execute spies. And he said, well, I'm going to. Well, they ended up having to run it through the Supreme Court, and in a very famous decision called the Quirin decision, the Supreme Court reviewed it over like 2 days, over a weekend. 2 of the spies were spared because they were helpful, the saboteurs rather, and 6 of them were waiting in their cells, thinking that they were going to be tried or something like that, and the executioners walked in and said, we're hanging you right now. Yeah. And alphabetically, they went back out into the yard, and they hanged the Nazi saboteurs. And you know, to me, one of the key points of this, which is one of the reasons I wanted to be able to have be able to throw certain amounts of color into this is what happens in war. These are not nice people, and the rules, this is not the same thing as a jury of your peers. You are dealing with enemies, and part of the objective is to scare the living daylights out of anybody who would do this.
I thought it was interesting, again, at the end of the war comes Nuremberg, which has to be, it has to exist. But with these guys, it was ace, king, jack in the game. That's it. And FDR, who people see as this somewhat of a champion for rights of individuals, it didn't apply. They were gone.
Not here. And in fact, his son was asked, would your father have used the bomb? And the nature of the question was, your father was a humanitarian, and Roosevelt's son said, in 2 seconds he would have used it.
And he's the one who begins the project. So of course, I mean, with intent. I heard that same story. They asked one of the oldest sons and said, oh, would your dad use the bomb because Harry did? He said, of course he would.
Why do you think they were developing it?
Yeah, that's right. Why did FDR give it the green light if they weren't going to use it? In the end, and the great sadness of the Navy commander, talk about his life and then what happens to him.
Well, I'm a creature of Washington. I've never been in the mob, but I have worked in the White House and seen how politics works. So this Commander Hoffenden takes a life risk and ends up working with the mob. The only thing worse than the program failing is what happens if it succeeds. Yeah. Nobody knows who this guy is anymore. And so he has to testify, and his life was destroyed. He ended up having to he had terrible health. He ended up getting injured in the Pacific, and then he came back and became a dictaphone salesman, and he died of blood pressure-related illnesses. But to me, Commander Hoffenden is the tragic figure because he took the risk to work with the mob, and then the government didn't want to know who he was. Disowned him, and I think that he needs to be heralded, and I was very sympathetic to his position, and Meyer was livid about what happened to him as well.
The story about going to Winchell, and I mean, I would have loved you to do a book on Winchell, but when Meyer goes to Winchell, that's all true.
I'll tell you a great story, an absolutely true story about Walter Winchell. Walter Winchell used to tip off Meyer Lansky as to where the Bund was rallying. Yes. And because the Bund would tell Winchell, because they wanted coverage, Meyer would send people to beat them up. One day, Meyer, he was Walter Winchell's neighbor in the Majestic House apartments. And Meyer goes up to Winchell. He said, Walter, you gave me a bum address. We showed up and they weren't there. And Winchell was terrified that he gave Meyer Lansky a bum steer. And he went, Meyer, I'm so terrible. I'm so terribly sorry. And Meyer said, don't worry, Walter, we got him.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
and so this is how things were.
How powerful was Walter Winchell at the height of his power?
Well, there was no one like him. He had no competitors. I mean, he was so powerful that J. Edgar Hoover courted him. He was the most powerful journalist in the country, and he wasn't an investigative reporter in the sense of doing a lot of legwork. People told him stuff, and he rewarded them in return. And he was very powerful. Sadly, he also had a decline because as the media business grew after the war, there was less and less need of somebody like that. Journalism became an industry.
Well, the rise of Murrow and Murrow's boys and Winchell. Sure. I mean, there's a thing that I'm always drawn to Winchell, and I always think, well, who becomes Winchell, or do we have a modern Winchell? Do you think so? Do you think there's anybody?
No, I really don't. I mean, I think it's so different. I mean, I do think you have Woodward and Bernstein who kind of took on that role because people started, anybody who wanted to say something started telling them. I mean, we used to joke, I mean, I was a young guy in the White House, but we used to joke that whoever is being covered well in the press is who's leaking. Because you would see these negative stories, but somebody would say, well, the genius of everything is Peter. Well, Peter's probably leaking. So Woodward and Bernstein, especially Woodward, has been able to make a great career because after Watergate, you had all these people telling him stuff.
In the end, when I like the part of the book when Charlie Lucky Luciano says to Meyer, I knew they'd screwed us. I knew they would screw us. Why does Charlie say that?
He says that because while he was freed from prison, they made good on that. He was deported. Yeah. And he was deported to Italy, and where he lived in exile. And contrary to the popular culture things you can find on Reddit about how Luciano ran the mob from Naples, he didn't. Yeah. I think he was respected. People delivered him money. He might have gone to a few meetings, but he was under such scrutiny that it would have been impossible for him to do much of anything at all. And the irony is Meyer Lansky, the media in the 60s and 70s were writing about Meyer Lansky as if he was at the height of his powers. And what I like to tell people, because Meyer was literally chased out of the country by J. Edgar Hoover, despite the fact people say that Meyer blackmailed him with a photo. Yeah, the pictures. No, there were no photos. And J. Edgar Hoover, whether he was gay or not, we'll never know. But I assure you, he was not wearing a cocktail dress to parties. But the FBI of the 1970s was chasing the Meyer Lansky of the 1950s. And before, that's why they couldn't get him. They didn't get him because he was too clever. They got him because he wasn't doing much of anything anymore when they were chasing him because he had scrutiny all the time.
I know you got to go. Did Lansky die? Did he die broke?
Not broke, but not with a lot because he spent his money on lawyers in his final years. That's what happened. But he was once very rich.
You pick up the phone and say, hey, Pete, I'd like to do the show today, and you're on. I mean, I love having that.
Anytime. This is a lot of fun.
I think you're the best. And the book is out called The Devil Himself, and you take care. I know you got lots of stuff to do today, but thank you, Eric, for doing the radio show with us.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you. All right, everybody, we go to open lines, 303-696-1971. We talked about gun rights and what's happening. And then also I brought this up because I listened to a little bit of talk radio this week, and the strike on the Venezuelan dope boat, and people were screaming and hollering about it. It just doesn't trouble me. And after we just finished talking about FDR and the saboteurs, and they really did do that. And then, of course, Nuremberg comes at another price, but by blowing up a suspected cartel boat The United States signals it's bringing a war on terror tactics to the drug war. 303-696-1971. Are we good on time? We're good? Okay. Let's go to Jay in Castle Rock. Jay, you're on the radio show. Good afternoon, and thank you.
Well, thank you, Peter. Great show. I was so interested in listening to your guest about the West Coast mob in Las Vegas, and he's a super smart guy.
Oh, he's great.
Is he still on the line, or
he's gone.
Is he gone?
He's gone. He had work this afternoon.
Okay. I often wonder how people get such accurate information about things about that time, which was really in the 50s and 60s and through the 80s. But he has accuracy. I knew a bit about the Las Vegas group and the Sands Hotel, and as a growing up young man working down there, and he just had some excellent information. I was hoping to ask him some questions, but I learned so much from what he said.
Both of us. So, yes. Yeah.
And I know you find it very interesting.
It's like in Godfather, Hyman Roth is Meyer Lansky. And Lee Strasberg, of course, plays Hyman Roth, and it's based on Lansky. And apparently, in Little Man, that book, Little Man, Lansky phoned Strasberg and congratulated him on a good performance. I mean, this is true. And Strasberg gets nominated for an Oscar. And that statement to Michael, when he says, "We're bigger than U.S. Steel," that was very similar to something Lansky told his wife when they're watching a news story. Mo Green, of course, is Bugsy Siegel. And I mean, all that stuff is where they knocked them all off. So people, getting shot in the eye. Remember, Mo Green gets shot in the eye, and that comes from how Bugsy Siegel got shot. So no, I like that stuff. I mean, the comparison analysis. It's there.
We were the Sands Hotel. Had you ever been to the original Sands, which is now the Bellagio and the Venetian?
I've been to Bellagio, but I haven't been to Las Vegas for forever. Yeah.
Yeah, the Sands was a big deal back a long time ago when we actually used to race Barstow to Vegas and dirt bikes.
Okay.
And behind the Sands Hotel was a tunnel. So the owners, which I won't name names, would go in and fly into the back of the Sands Hotel and go down into a tunnel. And the tunnel, which I saw with my eyes, came up inside the Sands, which was where, of course, the famous Rat Pack performed in that back room for all of the Hollywood celebrities and Marilyn Monroe and saw Dean Martin. And I'll tell you one thing about that time, and I was just a kid, young kid, the unspoken rule of not speaking about those times. Now it's 55 years later, but they had so much going on there, and most of those people lived in L.A. They never lived in Las Vegas because it was brutally hot, and air conditioning was hardly even perfected at the time, especially for homes. But that room we went up into just to monkey around and look around because I knew somebody that worked there. Was definitely, there was only one way in, one way out, and very few booths, and that's where, of course, Joey Bishop and Sammy Davis Jr. and Frank Sinatra.
Performed. And of course, in the end of the book, The Devil Himself, that wraps up Lansky, when Charlie Luciano leaves Sicily and he comes to meet them in Cuba, and the United States finds out that he's in Cuba, and they run him out. But the entertainer, it's a big, it's every mobster in America, every head of everything comes to Cuba because Lansky calls this meeting, and the entertainer, Frank Sinatra. So, yeah.
Wow.
Anyhow.
That's amazing. Well, I was glad to talk to you about this. And,
thank you, sir.
Maybe sometime in the future I'll call back in about it. But thank you, and have a great day.
You too, man. Thank you. This is Jim in Littleton. James, you're on the radio show. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Peter. I'm just calling up on your show on the earlier parts for your guest. You were commenting about the Republican Party in Colorado. and making that comment about why we are so blue right now, and you blame it on the Republican Party. I have to say though, I take note on that because I'm unaffiliated, but I have a lot of friends that are both Republican. Most of them are unaffiliated, but they're only unaffiliated in name only. The ones that I know, they're voting Republican. That unaffiliated is really a misnomer. If you look at most of those people, they're not going to vote based on the individual. They're not going to vote on that.
Can I ask you, why did they unaffiliate from the Republican Party?
Well, there's a bunch of them unaffiliated from the Democratic Party as well because it's become too liberal. Or in the Republican Party, they've gone through issues that they don't agree with. And also, they have freedom to do what they want more so now.
No one's arguing. No one's arguing that. I don't know any Democrats that. I mean, I'm sure they're out there, but I don't know any that unaffiliated themselves with the Democratic Party. They still.
I beg to differ. I have a few that actually gun enthusiasts that decided they're not affiliated with them anymore because of this gun issue. They definitely are. Now they may not be a big part, but they're there. I'll just also bring this to your point, Peter. If you look at California, if you look at New York, you look at these areas. I know Republicans that are so middle of the road. They can't get elected if their life depended on it. Ronald Reagan could not get elected in Colorado right now.
Neither could Jack Kennedy.
Well, that's what I'm telling you.
But he's a Democrat.
You put the blame on the Republican Party.
No, I'm not. Listen to me. I'm not putting the blame on it. I'm putting the blame on the actions of the party within itself. The reason the Democrats continue to win, once again, back to a prize fight analysis, that sometimes fighters win fights and sometimes fighters lose fights. But oftentimes, for instance, I use Buster Douglas and Mike Tyson in Tokyo. Buster Douglas should have never won that fight, but he did, because you know why? Because Mike Tyson lost it. And these guys keep coming up with all this foolishness and expect reasonable people to wait for them.
Well, I'm not going to argue that point. Let me ask you this question.
Sure.
The last Republican governor we had,
Bill Owens.
He couldn't get elected now.
Bill Owens was self-defeating. I mean, but he did his tours and he did the right thing. Remember, he was vice presidential timber, and then there was a bunch of stories. Whether or not they were true or not, I don't know. But then there was Ben Nighthorse Campbell, and then and Ben's. I like Ben. Ben's friend. We rode motorcycles together, and then Ben's out, and and there.
And he couldn't get elected now.
No, I don't argue that. I don't argue that.
Well, I'm just saying this state has changed. These people that I met with a lot of these people that basically a Republican could walk on water and they would not vote. Here's the point: Trump lost this state.
Both times, and the second time by more than the first, which is.
And he won the national popular.
But he lost a lot of states, and he won other states. No, you're right.
Right.
But that's true with every. Well, George McGovern he won. He didn't even carry his home state, so
right.
I can't answer. Very good call and thought out well. Thanks, Jim. Thanks, everybody. Hold on. We have one line open. We're doing open lines. Good afternoon. It's a Saturday. I'm Peter Boyles on 710 KNUS. Damn the Pusher Man. It's a Saturday and it's afternoon, 7:10 KNUS. I'm Peter Boyles. For the first time since we kicked in open lines, there's two lines open. If you were trying to get on the show, 303-696-1971. If you got a busy signal, jump the show. Open right now, 303-696-1971. 80 and maybe a little bit of rain coming your way. Let's go to Artis. You're on the radio show. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Peter. I've enjoyed the show. I'm not a gun owner. I can't imagine, retired nurse, so I can't imagine aiming a gun at somebody, maybe a burner. But anyway, I'm just so assured that all of these new gun rules will make sure all the criminals have to go through all these checkouts, right?
Home run. Spot on.
Yeah, let's take away the guns from the good guys and not worry about the bad guys anymore because, of course, they can't get guns.
My grandma had a line. She would say, locks, L-O-C-K-S, locks are made for honest people.
Mm-hmm.
No, criminals, gangsters, do you really think, any of these laws are aimed at law-abiding citizens of the state of Colorado who are firearms people. They collect guns or they have guns or they shoot guns or they want guns, and they keep cutting away, chipping away. And when a guy like Allen's going to leave the city, leave the state, that's really a heartbreak. The guy runs a legit business. He's a good man. They're pushing him out.
Yeah, it's just, and like I said, I have no interest in guns. There is no way I could aim at an animal or some human being and, shoot them. But this state needs to go red again. This blue deal is just obnoxious.
But how do you get there?
Get where? To the red state?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Talk to people about, are you happy with how Colorado has turned? This is not, I moved here in 77 because I learned how to ski, and it was being close to the mountains was better skiing than Ohio, and it wasn't like this. And it's just heartbreaking. And we're losing people.
Yeah. They're still, again, using a boxing analogy or analysis. If you got a great heavyweight champion, you better be damn good to take that seat or to take that strap. And if you look at histories of fighters, the win-loss thing is what we're watching in politics. There really isn't that much difference. And if you have a good candidate and you have a better candidate, the better candidate wins. But if you have people saying stuff that's so inane and so insane, the whatever middle-of-the-road intelligence stays away from them. And they're self-destructive. And you just listen to it and you hear that song, and I think to myself, my race is run, and I'm older than you, but I think I got this grandson. I had dinner with him last night. He's the man, and I hope what's here for him, what's waiting for him. I don't know, but
it always. I obviously am not a Biden fan, and I'm amazed. Obviously, I think that whole election was truth. But every time he was on TV, all that came to mind to me was we looked like a circus to the rest of the world.
Yeah,
this man leadership.
Yeah, Joe Biden. Once again, the whole precept of the Democratic Party, but they're right. When Hillary Clinton loses to Donald Trump, it's because people did not like Hillary Clinton. Mm-hmm. When Donald Trump loses, and they can't take that, they can't put their arms around a loss. They have to create this entire scenario of a craziness, But that's one of the reasons. And then it comes back around the second time, and the vice president of the United States, there's not even primaries. There's nothing that the Democratic Party does that's even semi-legitimate. She just gets the crown, and then everybody doesn't like that or doesn't like her. What do? They reelect Donald Trump, legitimately reelect. I mean, that's a legitimate win, and I mean that's just the truth, and and
America is a business, and he is a businessman.
Well, but politics, I think, is a likability, or what can you do for me, or all the different things. I mean, when you talk to people about voting, and you read the people who really studied voting behavior, 9 times out of 10, or maybe 8 times out of 10, people vote against somebody more than they vote for somebody. And if you think of yourself, did you vote against her or did you vote for him?
Yeah, and this time I definitely voted for him.
Okay.
Because he's him.
No,
and I'm very pleased with what he is doing.
But see, that's right. Or there were people. Either way, all roads lead to Rome. But the voting behavior was people voted against her, and voted, and then subsequently voted for Donald Trump. But and again, I come back to this book that's probably the best book about Trump and Hillary Clinton, and the book is called it's called Shattered, and the idea was Hillary Clinton was going to shatter the glass ceiling, and they named the book Shattered, thinking that was going to be the occurrence, and it wasn't. And when they got out into Indiana and they get into Pennsylvania and they get into Ohio, and they find all of these people that were one time, Union Democrats, and they interviewed them, and they said, "Look, we voted for you, we stayed with you, we did what we did. Now, the Walmart is closed. My kid has a drug problem, and you're calling me a racist. I'm voting for Donald Trump." And
just the fact, can you imagine what this whole, the sex guy, would all this have come out if Hillary was our president?
No, but
I think Bill visited a lot.
But she was measuring the drapes. I mean, she thought she had it.
Yeah.
And she got beat. And the stories about that night it was Podesta telling some of the stories, and they were in the Javits Center in New York, where she was going to proclaim that she had won. And the story is really worth telling, because she was not going to call Donald Trump and tell him that he'd won. There's a tradition, you call and you say you've won. And it took Barack Obama, according to the book, calling her and saying, "You got to call Donald Trump." And she didn't want it. She wasn't going to do it. And she was apparently also, according to the book, she was drunk or close to drunk. And the Saudi, and this makes all the sense in the world, according to the book, the Saudi Arabians had sent her this huge television, really lots of pixels, and it was a great big screen, and they had it in the back room with her where they were all celebrating her win, and somebody had made a sheet cake congratulating her on becoming the first woman president, and she's drunk, or allegedly drunk, picks up the sheet cake and hucks it into the Saudi Arabian TV screen and smashes it. And, and her husband's there, Bill's there, and she turns on him, and it's just it's a horror show. And so John Podesta goes out and faces this gathered audience and said, "We're going to fight on through the night." But she had already called Trump and conceded. So, I mean, that is one of the great, moments in how somebody goes into the ring thinking they're going to win and gets knocked out. Trump knocked her out, and she was her own worst enemy as well. So when you start to talk about what's going to happen in elections and why, there's an awful lot of history to read to understand the outcomes of things. And when Nixon beat George McGovern, my God, George McGovern would have been 100 times better than Nixon, but Nixon had lied and cheated and done so many things and ends up resigning. I don't know.
It just, I graduated from high school in '70, and I was never quite this political, but I have become very, very politically Republican. So it's just like, I'm glad my father is not alive to see this.
I generally find myself saying conservative. I don't say Republican because I really don't want to be associated with a hell of a lot of them. I don't want my name thinking, oh boy, you're just like, no, I'm not. And you can be conservative on some issues and liberal on other issues. You kind of pick and choose your way through it. And I think a lot of people do that. Over here, like, I really wanted to talk today about blowing up that cartel boat. And, what do you think of that?
Well, they don't want to come across the border because it's pretty much now closed. So they're finding the ways to get drugs to our American people.
Yeah, I'd finished that book, The Devil Himself, and it finishes on FDR just executing those saboteurs. And I'm thinking, what's the difference in him doing that and blowing up the cartel boat? I don't know. No, they didn't have a trial. No, that was the point of it, is the saboteur. Now, Nuremberg, they had a trial. But in the saboteurs, they did not, and they just hung them. They went into cells, and they thought they were going to have a trial in America. They were going to have their rights, and FDR said, no, kill them. That's...
Well, all these illegal immigrants, and it's like, well, we need to give them their rights, and it's like, they're not Americans. They're illegally here. What rights should they have?
Well, that's the question, isn't it? That's really the question. Thank you. Thank you for your call. Thank you, ma'am. 303-696-1971. Good afternoon, everyone. We got about 24 minutes left in the show. If you were trying to call the show, this is the right moment to do so. It's weird how you get jam lines and everybody jams them in, and then they jam them up again. So 303-696-1971. Lines are open. We started this morning with the MC1 Honor Run, and then the Vet Dogs. She was way cool, that lady. Alan Samuel and Machine Gun Tours, and then, of course, the devil himself, Meyer Lansky. And there's a wonderful parallel book, and it's a guy named Robert Lacey. He was the first one of those books I read. It was entitled Little Man, Meyer Lansky and the Gangster Life, and how they really did operate. They were almost self-protective. And Lansky was never found, remember, Lansky was never found guilty of anything more serious than illegal gambling. And he was one of the most financially successful gamblers and gangsters in American history. He fled Cuba when the Castro Revolution happened. Lansky was said to be worth an estimated $20 million. When he died in 1983, his family learned that his estate was around $57,000. And the government spent a lot of years, like Eric was saying, trying to find that money, and don't know. But he certainly, did he have it and get it? But everybody thinks Meyer Lansky died broke. What do I know? 303-696-1971. So blowing up that cartel boat, and I listened to some different ideas than mine on talk radio this week. they're bringing drugs into this country, and the drugs that'll kill people. The strike targeted this Venezuelan organized crime boat, and it comes to the U.S. and ramps up pressure on the drug cartels. What do? They kill them. All right, let's go back. But we got to take a break. Why don't we? Okay, we've got a minute, and then we'll come back. Lines are jammed up. The U.S. sent a message this week. It's willing to unleash tactics once reserved for battlefields, deadly strikes against suspected terror targets. All right, lines are jammed. Close to our pause. 80 the high, 82 tomorrow. Maybe a little bit of rain. We'll see what happens. So, full lines. You ready? Can we pull a pin? We're right back.
The Denver forecast on this Saturday, increasing clouds through the day with high temperatures around 80 degrees. Mostly cloudy tonight and breezy, lows down to 55. For your Sunday, mostly sunny with a 30% chance for afternoon showers and thunderstorms. Daytime highs in the low 80s. Weather brought to you by L&L Heating and Air Conditioning. For quick, trustworthy, and dependable service, call L&L Heating and Air Conditioning at 720-851-1691. Visit them online at bestdenverhvac.com. That's bestdenverhvac.com. You'll be comfortable with L&L. I'm day weather meteorologist Patrice Sutter in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
afternoon. 710 KNUS, Saturday, September the 6th. Here it comes. Pulled into Nazareth. Huh? Now that's where they make, what guitars are made in Nazareth? The song has total meaning. Yeah, but it's about people and people they know, and whether Nazareth was, of course, biblical, but it's also the home of a guitar maker that they liked. The band, 710 KNUS, what's Martin's, that's right, Martin Guitars. 710 KNUS, Denver's talk station. Good afternoon, everyone. Let's go to Don and Aurora. Don, you're on the radio show. Good afternoon, and thank you.
Good morning, Uncle Pete. How's it going?
My boy.
Afternoon.
It's afternoon.
Good afternoon. I wanted to comment on this blowing up of this drug boat done by DJT. I'm of the opinion this should have been done about 20 years ago.
They should have started this back.
Yeah, exactly. But I also wanted to point out that this is not going to be won kinetically. There's a kinetic component to it, but it's also got to be dealt with on the demand side, and I see nobody even discussing that.
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, again, it gets back to the idiots in the state or the city that want shooting galleries and everybody carrying a Narcan bottle around. The future is Vancouver, and it's so scary to see it. If nobody wanted dope in this country, it would pile up like Everest on the other side of the border. But
exactly.
No, your point is absolutely well taken. However, if there's no dope to do, then what do you do? Or there's no encouragement to do dope, or there's no underwriting by the state to, it's okay, you can do drugs, and here's drugs to do. It's a trap. Yeah, it's a trap.
It's crazy.
But
you just look at some parts like Philadelphia. Some parts of Philadelphia I've seen videos of.
Oh my God!
It's like something out of The Walking Dead.
But they had the program, the Vancouver program in Philly, and then they stopped it. They tried it and they stopped it. It was in Philly. There were these stories about, and I'm sure it's happening here, but just doesn't get reported. The hotels that they would give, and they'd kick through the drywall and get the copper wire and sell it on the street. Then they sold the microwaves, and then they sold the sinks. And no, I mean, this is a terrible thing to say. They're junkies.
Well, I have the opinion. There's some people who want. Let me back up a little. I live in a part of Aurora. I live off of East Kentucky Drive on Sable and Mississippi.
I know where it is.
It was about 5, 10, 15 years ago. We had a horrible problem with homeless around this neighborhood. It's improved dramatically since the election they had. That got rid of a bunch of those loons on the city council. We still have a homeless issue, but it's not as bad as it was. But most of these people are addicts.
Absolutely.
Or they're addicts.
Absolutely. I mean,
they're addicts, alcoholics, or they got mental problems.
And they use the drugs and the alcohol to amend their mental issues.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I've seen it.
Of course.
Yeah, but that said, you're not going to save everybody. But you need to do something. It's never going to get fixed until you also deal with it on the demand side.
As long as I take care of you, which is what the city of Denver is doing, or the state of Colorado, for that matter, the government, taking care of people like that, instead of getting them into sobriety. I go back to the Mao barefoot doctors. When they came through and they said, we're coming back. If you're doing this fill in the blank, when we come back, we're going to kill you. And they quit. They found all these Chinese who were one-time smokers, and when they got back, the guy wasn't smoking opium anymore. Why? Because they were going to kill him. Because, I mean, that's brutal. It's like the strike on the Venezuelan organization is the strike on the drug boat. I wasn't upset by it.
Neither.
They were bringing, I mean, I don't know what kind of dope was on the boat, but suppose it was fentanyl. Suppose it was, it had to be something hardcore. And that's killing somebody's kid somewhere. The hell with that. You know.
My thoughts exactly.
And it goes back to the Mao model or FDR, and it's, you know, we're going to kill these people. Why? Well, we're going to send a message, and that was FDR's point. They killed all those saboteurs, and it all got back. It got back to Joseph Goebbels. It got back to they said, hey, you know, try it. We'll kill you. Yeah.
The point was made.
What about the next load of guys coming in a dope boat? You think they're not thinking about it?
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I'd be surprised if some guys say, "Well, I don't think I'm going to do that." I'm sure they'll find somebody because of the money.
Yeah. Remember in Scarface when they meet Mr. Soso and they're down in his beautiful palace, and Tony tells them they got the AWACS, they got the frogmen. Remember, because the whole thing is that this ain't no duck walk. Remember he tells them that about bringing cocaine into the United States. And now the technology must be so good that they can do this. I mean, they know that. Everybody said, how'd you know there was drugs on the boat? You knew damn well there was drugs on the boat. And you killed a bunch of gangster dope dealers. I'm just not upset about it.
Not either.
Really? Yeah, really. I mean,
pick a better profession in your next life.
Yeah, yeah. Bad choice. You chose. You know, you didn't choose wisely. You know, that there was a message sent that the United States is willing to unleash tactics on these guys, and the next guys who are loading up a dope boat, I wonder what they're thinking.
I'm sort of looking over their shoulders, and I don't think that's a bad thing.
I think they're thinking, well, you know, if I say goodbye to my old lady, you know, say goodbye to the kids, I might not be back. Because if you don't get in the dope boat and go to work, you know, the gang is going to knock you. So let's see what happens on the next one. And for all,
I'm sure there will be a next one.
Oh, there's probably one running right now.
Yeah, so I'm not too broke up about it.
No, I was cheering from the sidelines. So go get the next one. Take care, man. Thank you for a call. All right, we go to Mark. Mark, we got 2 minutes. It's all yours. Take it.
Well, it's funny. My wife's father, my former father-in-law, he's passed away, but he was commander lead ship in Guadalcanal. We had this discussion about what would happen if we really went after the drug smugglers over the water. He said, well, you have to blow one or two, maybe at the most 3 out of the water. He goes, but that'll stop all the people signing up to
start thinking about it. Yeah,
the mule. He goes, but he said, here's the thing though, you have to stay with it. They have to know if they carry that stuff. And people don't understand, Pete. I had security clearance 35 years ago for satellite imagery.
Mm-hmm.
You have to get real high clearance.
Mm-hmm.
They can, if you got a pack of cigarettes in your T-shirt, they can tell you if it's Marlboro.
I saw people told me that.
Okay, so they know. I mean, the answer is they know.
Sure, they did, and
they can go out there and they can take divers and they can pull the drugs up, and they probably will. The real thing is, we're trying to get into Venezuela anyway. We want the oil there anyway. So,
was your heart broken by blowing up that dope boat?
Oh no! Listen, I worked 17 years, Pete. I worked with the youth offenders, the worst drug criminals, Fort Logan. Listen, people don't know how bad and dark it is out there in the world they don't live in. If hookers on the street can have meth for nothing, you have no idea how many people are going to get toe tagged.
I got the music. You're a wonderful call, Mark. Thank you. Have a good weekend. Everybody, take care of yourselves. I'll see you next Saturday But this was a good one, a really good one. Thank you to Adam Walker. I'll see you next Saturday. Take care of yourselves.